you're at Fringe and everything, and it reminded me of Broadway's most infamous play. I don't know. Moose Murders.
Moose Murders!
Which closed on opening night. You have a lot of musicals that did that. You don't hear so much about the plays that did it.
It is abominably bad. It's like a basic farce.
Yeah.
But it is so inept at it.
I know all this just from description and other people talking about it. But there's a character who's like wrapped up all in bandages and who's in a wheelchair.
Well, that's just a bit from Day of the Tentacle.
Right. I think that's a typical, like, whenever there's someone who's all covered up in some way, like they're a Klansman or whatever in a farce, someone else is going to end up in that at some point, right? So you're going to have someone who doesn't need the wheelchair who's using it. And there's a moment that Frank Rich describes in his review of the play where the bandaged guy in the wheelchair at some point tries to, like, get up and kick somebody in the nuts. And I think it might be the guy wearing the moose head that's on the wall that is, I guess, what the play's named after. Mm-hmm. And what's weirdest about it is that's not in the script. The nut kicking scene was a directorial invention.
I prefer to think that Frank Rich dreamed it. That, like, as he was watching the play, he just sort of entered this fugue state and his mind was transported to an alternate reality. And he saw the play that he sort of wanted to review, the play that he wanted to pan. And so that's sort of the distance between the review and what we got is like, well, the more interesting play was the one that Frank invented in his own mind.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast that exists solely in the mind of Frank Rich. I am the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. But we're not here to talk about Frank Rich or the failing New York Times. We are here to conduct yet another case study in the pop culture of this wonderful dying empire. We're talking about a game called The Dig.
Yes, welcome to the end of history, baby.
Yeah, we're talking about a very different kind of failure.
A game that really personifies the phrase too many cooks.
Yes.
That had 4 different project leaders over the course of its development. And it's a game that I think a lot of people don't remember from LucasArts because, obviously you've got your Full Throttle, you've got your Day of the Tentacle, you've got your Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and you've got Monkey Island. Like, the Dig kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And I think there's a lot of fascinating stuff to dig into with this game.
It is an odd game. I'm curious before we do dig into the background.
I don't get it.
Oh, well, Brian, the game's called The Dig. And we're going to be, in this next section, we are going to be digging into our experiences in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Reflecting the title of the game.
That's what we do with most of the things we cover.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're
gonna cover it. Ha 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 ha. Am I doing it right?
Yes.
No.
So when we were working on figuring out what we wanted to talk about next, we've got some more, I think, adventure game stuff that's going to be coming down the pipeline because it's just something that we all, I think, enjoy, adventure and puzzle games.
There is something about adventure games. Everyone has their one, right? If you're of a certain age, if you're young enough, maybe you've never played any of these. But like everybody has their one that makes a little mold of itself inside of your body. Yeah. And you can pour hot lead into it at any time and make a perfect copy.
Mine is Full Throttle, which we'll be talking about at some point. But AJ, I think yours is The Dig.
Unfortunately, mine is The Dig. Of all games, this is the one that I think I played the most. Even more than Day of the Tentacle. More than Day of the Tentacle, weirdly. Like, there's a lot of Day of the Tentacle that I remembered, but like, I didn't even have to try to remember how to solve all the puzzles in The Dig.
Well, they're so logical.
Yeah, no, they make complete fucking sense. But a huge part of that is that this was my first one because I played this game before I played Day of the Tentacle. It was my first adventure game. I got it for my 6th birthday because it came out November 24th, 1995. My birthday is November 27th. I think I was perhaps a little too young to play this game. It took me an exorbitant amount of time to beat it because I was trying to figure out how you assemble a turtle from loose bones. Because of that, because I spent so long staring at these images and trying to figure out these puzzles and hearing that music, this game is an intrinsic part of me in a way I did not realize until going back to replay it.
So what you're saying is it's your Adventures in Odyssey.
Yes, in many ways. There are line deliveries in the way that Brian describes like line deliveries from Adventures in Odyssey that have lived rent-free in his head. Yeah. When they happen in the dig, I had like full Vietnam flashbacks.
So this is Mormon Adventures in Odyssey for AJ. Because of the contributions of one Mr. Orson Scott Card.
Oh boy, and we will certainly get to that. But what about the two of you? Because I know this is sort of, it has like a cult following, like people do really stand up for this game, but it is not as widely known, I think, as most of the rest of LucasArts catalog.
For me, I mean, my first experience with adventure games was Humongous Junior Adventures, which we're also definitely going to talk about at some point.
Oh, okay, then yes, I also played those before this. This is my first, I guess, adult adventure game.
But yeah, like Putt Putt, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, things like that, Pajama Sam, all, of course, were from Humongous, which was the studio that Ron Gilbert, who was the director of Maniac Mansion, the studio that he founded after leaving LucasArts. So I had a framework for like what point and click adventures were, and I didn't actually play the LucasArts games until like early high school.
Okay. Interesting.
That was when, and at that point, the Scum project was sort of in its nascent stage. It had been going for a little bit, but the Scum VM, for those not familiar, is an interpreter that allows you to play these old games on modern hardware.
Yeah.
And I have a distinct memory of firing up Full Throttle and Curse of Monkey Island and Zach McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders, which I actually haven't played very much of. So for me, I was always more drawn toward the very cartoony LucasArts games. Like that's why talking about Day of the Tentacle was a lot of fun, right? The Dig was one where I definitely did get the disc image, tried to play it, was able to make it off of the asteroid, at the very beginning and get into it a little bit, but I always sort of just ran into a wall at some point. And I think it was the turtle puzzle where I was like, yeah, I could look this up, but also this is kind of bullshit and I'm not having fun with this game in the way that I usually have fun with these adventures.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it until I was an adult, I don't think. Even like probably after college. I didn't really play these games. I've played a lot of point and click games. My parents were always kind of like suspicious of putting games on the computer. They didn't want to break the computer. They probably didn't have like the good DirectX or whatever that they needed. What we did have, though, was something called Galaxy of Games, which was basically just some company packaged up a bunch of shareware and put it onto one CD-ROM and sold it, probably like illegally, thinking about it now. So you could play, some of the games were full, but most of the time you were playing like part of a game. So like the first point and click game I played was probably Dare to Dream, which Cliff Bleszinski made when he was like 16 years old.
What?
This was before Gears of War. This was before he was a Broadway producer, all of that. And that was only just like a chunk of the game. And then you get to a certain point where it's like, send an envelope with $5 to this address and get the full game. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here. So then I got a copy from a bookstore of Retro Gaming Monthly, which was a British magazine about old video games that had a few Scum VM and Sludge games on it. Sludge was like this thing that was sort of like Scum VM, but it was all just like independent games made in like 2000. And so it was actually a game from like 2001 that made this huge impression on me when I was a teenager called Out of Order. Which is this sort of point and click indie riff on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, basically. With a very abrupt kind of gut punch ending. Very funny. No voice acting, of course, because this was small scale, low budget thing. But like the Dig was something that the first time I heard about it was sort of in these like, and this game Loom was a rare serious game and it's very interesting. The Dig also happened and it lost money. Moving on. And the other thing was, I think probably, I couldn't find it, but I think it was a Cracked article about the worst puzzles in popular adventure games. talking about the turtle puzzle, as well as like the one in Full Throttle where you're in the garage, and the goat in Broken Sword.
The thing about the Dig, and the reason I was allowed to play it, because there was a long period of time until I got my Nintendo 64 when I think I was 7 or 8, where my mom would not allow me to play video games that were not educational on my computer. So I did all the jump starts, I did the math blasters, I did all of those things. Yeah, and Fatty Bear was sort of my gateway drug into the Humongous games, which is funny because I think it's the worst of them from what I understand. But Myst was really kind of the thing that broke open the adventure game genre, right? And then, because that was like, oh, he's using his brain to solve puzzles, this is still an educational thing, which then led to picking up the Dig. But another thing,
wait, but you played Myst when you were a kid too?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Before the Dig?
I think maybe
you must have played that with your dad.
That's
a classic game to play with your dad.
Yeah. Was your dad into the? Because I'm just amazed at you being 5 years old playing the Dig.
So here's what happened. Yeah. Okay, my dad and I had this tradition where we would go to Vista, California, where there was a CompUSA.
Hell yes.
And we would go to Rubio's Baja Grill and we would get a bean and cheese burrito. And then we would go to CompUSA and we would pick up a new game together. That was like a tradition of ours.
That's
and when we picked up the game, we also picked up the official strategy guide for the game.
Yeah, makes
because
sense.
I was 5 and 6 years old. And like, there was going to be
also,
no way.
Even if you're an adult, some of those puzzles are abstruse.
We would go and pick up these games. And basically it was just judging a book by its cover. So I would got this like weird wide variety of things. We got Day of the Tentacle. We got the Dig. But we also got Descent. And so I think a large part of this is also that like this game is such a dad game. And the reason why it is a dad game is because it came from the idea of the daddest dad who's ever dadded. One, let me just check my notes here. Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg was also like, I'm going to make an anthology TV show.
Yes.
Because that's also where Spielberg's career started, right? He made one of the...
He did Columbo.
Well, no, before Columbo.
Even before Columbo.
He made a segment of the pilot episode of Night Gallery, which was Rod Serling's show after the Twilight Zone. Richard Donner directed another segment for that one. So he loved anthology TV shows. He grew up on anthology TV shows. And he's like, what if I did a Twilight Zone Alfred Hitchcock Presents style half-hour anthology show based on the Amazing Stories periodical from the 30s and 40s? A problem with that being that a half hour of TV isn't as long as it was when the Twilight Zone was on television, right? You're going from 25 minutes to really like 21 and a half workable minutes once you remove even the credits from that. Amazing Stories, not super well received. He got a contract at the beginning. It was picked up for 2 seasons. It ran for exactly those 2 seasons and was never seen again.
Until it was revived on Apple TV in 2020 for some reason.
So this was a script that he had wanted to use for that show that he wasn't able to actually get made?
Yes, I couldn't confirm this, but one of the articles I read said that the basic plot was archaeologists in space in the future. They're digging up an ancient civilization. They dig deep enough, and then they come across a big Mickey Mouse statue, and it's Disneyland. Right. So the aliens that they're excavating, it turns out that it's us, but they have no idea. Like, it's so far in the future. It's like Foundation. It's like so far removed from our present day that to them, it's still just an alien civilization.
Basically, this is all prompted because Spielberg sits down to play Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the graphic adventure, which LucasArts makes and releases the same year that Last Crusade comes out, which is 1989. Spielberg has always been a gamer.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of photos with him with arcade cabinets for like Donkey Kong way back in the day. Like, he was an early adopter. It turns out his favorite game series is Call of Duty. He loves playing Call of Duty on PC, according to his son Max.
Do you remember the other game that Steven Spielberg created?
Boom Blocks.
Boom Blocks. Yeah, which is a true like game.
That's a game.
That is a Wii game where it's like Jenga, but you get to throw shit at the tower.
I never played it. It looked fun.
Well, he also made Medal of Honor.
He did?
He created
his name
that
is attached
series.
to that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, he's had sort of his hand in that pie. Yeah.
But yeah, he likes games. Yeah, he's very omnivorous with his game choices and with what he's interested in. And the thing about LucasArts is that it was founded by his good buddy, George Tiberius Lucas.
Yes.
Spielberg and Lucas have always had these like handshake deals with each other. It's the only place where handshake deals exist in Hollywood anymore. Like their actual like monetary bet on Close Encounters of the Third Kind or Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where Spielberg was like, Star Wars is going to make more money, and George Lucas was like, Close Encounters is going to make more money. And they were like, well, the winner gets to have like a stake in the profits of the movie going forward. So Spielberg has made a shit ton of money off of the first Star Wars just because Star Wars did better than his movie. So when Steven Spielberg is like, hey, my TV show idea didn't fit into a neat 24, 22, whatever minutes, take this video game company that you don't care about. George Lucas did not give a he would show up the first couple of years, he'd show up and mumble something about a story idea and then wander off. The most involved he ever was in any game was the Dig, and it was because Steven Spielberg would show up to Skywalker Ranch and Lucas would be like, let's hang out.
Well, and that's the other thing, was that for the people working at LucasArts at the time, it was located on the campus of Skywalker Ranch in Marin
It was in
County.
the stables.
So
They
it's just
put
like
him in the stables. So this first initial meeting, right? This initial pitch meeting, it's attended by George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Ron Gilbert, as we mentioned, founder of Humongous Entertainment and the head of LucasArts at the time, and Noah Falstein, who would go on to be one of the game's project leaders.
It was at this meeting with the big mahogany desk that they were like, Falstein, you're going to lead this game. And then a humongous earthquake hits.
Yeah, that day, it was the San Francisco
1989 San Francisco earthquake, a huge, horrible disaster. And everyone who worked on this game talks about that moment as the genesis of the game and being like, we should have listened.
We should have listened to God.
That bodes ill.
I found this quote from Falstein about the meetings that they would have with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg about the game before they like set off to develop it in earnest. And Josh, I was wondering if you could read this for us.
The meetings were very open-ended with everyone contributing. Steven and George joked with each other like the good friends they were. At the time, they were both divorced and single, and there were several jokes about that as we discussed the love interest in the game.
So if anybody has played The Dig, this explains
a lot.
So much about the female characters, because dear God.
Not just the female character, the
male
singular female
characters.
character.
And
there's two.
There's two.
There's not a lot of characters in this story, which is weird for this kind of point and click adventure, right? Like on one end, yes, you have like the first person ones like Myst where you're totally alone. But usually the LucasArts games, they have a lot of characters because the characters are also the puzzle. There's some puzzle that involves manipulating someone in some way. It's so funny thinking about these guys like making these games at Skywalker Ranch. Ron Gilbert actually was an extra on the fucking Ewok movies.
What?
Because George Lucas, the miser that he is, made both of those like straight to video Ewok movies on Skywalker Ranch. And so Ron Gilbert decided, it would be fun to make a movie. And they put him in a fucking rubber suit and he's just chasing Ewoks around all day in the middle of the summer in California.
The game then sets off in earnest. It has a targeted release date of Q2 1992.
Oh boy.
And it would not release until 1995.
I mean, already pretty remarkable that they were setting a development goal of like taking 2.5 years. That's pretty considerable.
Long.
For games at that time.
Yeah, well, they were also trying something new at the time, and it was also that Spielberg had like the clout and the money to be like, let's just see this thing done right. And what that eventually ended up meaning was that there would be 4/5 project leaders over the course of its development. We begin with Noah Falstein, and Brian, you have some information about what the various versions of the Dig were before we got the one that we got.
I kept finding old articles that were like, and the design documents for this version of the game are online, and I could not fucking find them, and I was able to eventually find an archived version of a blog maintained by someone who worked on one element of the game and had the old design document, right? The thing that you basically get this thing written up and then you're in production. It's what you're working from. You can add to it, but you're usually not like taking stuff out from there. It's sort of like a script. Or if you're in it's probably more like a show Bible, like what a TV show has. So this involves Spielberg's basic idea, which is that he wanted to do Forbidden Planet. I don't think you guys have seen Forbidden Planet. Great movie, great Leslie Nielsen performance, great animation at the end. I love that movie. That was one of my favorites when I was a kid. It's based on the Tempest. And it would combine Forbidden Planet with the treasure of the Sierra Madre. This had two competing teams of archaeologists way off in the future, space archaeologists, one expedition, the one that you are on, and you can choose between one or like between a couple of different characters in this crew. You're led by Major Tom. Major Tom dies. He does not get in contact with ground control, I guess.
In keeping with what you would expect from a man named Major Tom, he dies in space.
You kind of start already on whatever this planet is. Your ship is a little fucked up. Major Tom is dead, blah, blah, blah. And as you get deeper into the dig, this is where I've seen no one reference At the Mountains of Madness, but this is the plot of At the Mountains of Madness. They dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and they find the remnants of this great society, and then they find all of the like warfare and everything else that destroys it. And they find out that these sort of nomadic alien things that are living on the surface are the descendants of the ancient people. And then there are some that are frozen in stasis.
What I'll say too, because I sort of skimmed this document.
Yeah.
This is a huge game. Mm-hmm. Like as written
fucking
here.
Massive, dude. They were expecting a 30 to 40 hour game.
There's like warring factions. There's a branching story system that involves like, depending on how you lead your group, there are multiple different like pathing endings. There are also different ways that the story can play out depending on like what alien faction you align with.
Yep.
There was no fucking way this game was ever going to get shipped.
No.
With the scope outlined in this document.
Yeah.
It was not happening.
And to give you some like sense of what the final game feels like, it's about 3.5 hours if you know what you're doing, and at most like 7 if you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
So a significant cutback from their original plans.
And this version of the game had RPG elements. According to Falstein in his Reddit AMA, he said too many RPG elements, which I think I agree. I think this is a system, this sort of scum VM point and click game, doesn't support this type of gameplay very well. And they wanted specifically like survival stuff where you're having to make sure that you're eating and drinking water and like sourcing that kind of thing.
Another one of the big gameplay mechanics was going to be the actual digging. Like that's another thing that's kind of weird about the dig is that there's not actually all that much digging in it.
There is at the beginning.
No, there is.
The shovel solves so many of this game's puzzles.
That's true.
That even like Commander Lowe at one point says, imagine if I hadn't brought this shovel along. No, I don't want to think about that.
As outlined in the original document, the idea was like, you were going to be able to go out and like find different places and dig in different areas and maybe dig different things up. Again, the document is so interesting to read because looking at it, you're like, this is a fucking nightmare. They were never going to be able to turn this into a game. You couldn't turn this into a game with all of the, I mean, I guess you could make a game like this with all of the tech and resources you have now, but it would be a AAA game with like a 4-year development cycle in a $500 million plus budget.
I will say that the digging that does happen in the game does have one of the most satisfying sound effects for my brain because it takes forever, right? That's the other thing about it is that the digging feels bad in the dig.
Everything
which is
takes
probably
forever.
Not a great
Walking
sign.
around takes forever, and at some point you start getting into the backtracking part of the game, and you're like, "Oh my god, please just move!" I found out about double clicking.
Yes, double clicking.
I found out. Well, I had tried it before, where I double clicked on a thing I was walking to, which doesn't make you go. You don't run. There's no run animation. They couldn't afford it.
This is not a frantic game.
But if you click on an exit and you double click it, then it'll automatically just go to the next screen. But like if you have to scroll the screen, like at the very end of the game where you're going back and forth between two spots, all of which scroll, you have to wait for the screen to scroll so that the exit can appear, and then you can double click it.
Yet another reason that humongous entertainment games stay winning. All of those screens are single screens without panning. But
and another reason why like Mist and Riven works so well, because it's a slideshow and you can click really fast through it if you need to.
How long was Noah Falstein's version of the game in development? Do we know?
It was about 18 months.
Okay.
So he was working on it for a time, and then of course he got laid off later, but that didn't actually happen until after he changed positions. So he stopped being the lead on the game, but he moved up into a creative director role with LucasArts.
Sure.
And became a producer on the game while Brian Moriarty took it over. And then there was something with like Monkey Island 2 not meeting sales expectations. I think it missed a holiday window for release. And then LucasArts did what LucasArts does, and it laid off a whole bunch of people, including Falstein, because he wasn't deemed necessary anymore on that project. And so it was just Brian Moriarty from there. And Brian Moriarty, yeah, he was the guy who made the serious game that everyone loves. I haven't played Loom. I should play it sometime because the puzzles don't work normally. The puzzles don't work the way that they do in a lot of these games, right? Where you have your inventory of items, you have your commands, and you click stuff. Instead, it's like Ocarina of Time, where the ocarina is how you interact with everything.
Yeah.
You play different musical notes. It sounds really interesting.
It's all sound and music based. It's a very synesthetic game.
I was
it's
watching
really cool.
a little bit of because Brian Moriarty doesn't really talk about his time on the Dig, and we'll get into that. But I was watching a little bit of him talking about Loom at GDC 10 years ago, right? So 30 years after Loom came out. And he was talking about the very basic idea when the idea for Loom came to him. And again, 30 years after making this game, he starts crying on stage. Like that's the kind of guy that he is. He's very invested in what he's making. He's very much an auteur type figure. And so they really think, okay, we've got the big Spielberg stuff. They've already made a bunch of CG sequences. Like if this game had managed to come out on schedule, it would have blown a lot of things out of the water. Even if it wasn't necessarily good, like the tech in it was really quite something. And then by the time it comes out in 95, it's not super impressive.
Yeah, Q2 92 would have beaten Myst.
So they get Brian Moriarty on there, and Moriarty's like, we're tossing out the old document. We just have to start anew, right? The basic idea of like the past, things went wrong at the Mountains of Madness, that'll be there. We're shaving everything down. Instead, there's this one crew of 4 people, notably 4 people who come to the planet. It's set in 1998. They're going to use the space shuttle. All this stuff is still in the game now. And he had this design document. I couldn't find his design document, but his whole thing was that he just kept adding stuff during the process. It was always like, what's a new thing that can happen?
There was also from interviews about this project, which there's a couple good interviews on the International House of Mojo, which is a long-running LucasArts fan site. There's a couple good interviews there about sort of what the morale was like.
Bad.
And part of the problem with the Dig generally was that everybody wanted to work on what Tim Schafer was doing.
Oh, sure.
Because those projects were more fun, more focused, and had a much clearer deliverable attached to them.
Yeah. And what you find whenever there's a shakeup with the Dig is you get like the star players moving over to like full throttle.
Right. But you can't cancel the Dig because it's Steven Spielberg's idea.
Right. That's the thing. Like this came up.
George and Steve shook hands on it.
Yeah. It has to come out.
This came up so much, was like, we just need to shit or get out of the kitchen, you know? Like we need to...
What?
He's mixing metaphors, AJ.
Stop this.
We need to like just make a decision. Either we just slap together everything we have now and then just put it out and say goodbye to it, or we toss it out. But it's like you can't get rid of Steve Spielberg's idea. No. LucasArts canceled shit all the time. Like everybody, like half the things that they worked on was a canceled project and then they moved on to something else. Sometimes you've just cooked something for too long.
And I will say that I think the reason I bought this game when I was a child was because it had Steven Spielberg's name on it.
I mean,
at the top.
I think that's the case with most people because, I mean, Brian, you said that at the beginning that this game didn't make money, but according to a few sources, it did recoup. So like,
this is what was confusing because it sold more than a lot of LucasArts games,
right?
But it also cost so fucking much to make.
Because it took 6 years to make. Yeah,
I don't think that anybody like fully knows for sure.
Yeah,
but it does seem that it, at the end of the day, at least got close to making its money.
Well, and they hyped the absolute fuck out of this too. I'm sure when you went to Comp USA, AJ, there were like cardboard standees
like
for the Dig, and like it was probably given like a prominent place on the shelves and everything, because again they were like, well, we've got the Spielberg name, we've got the Orson Scott Card name too,
right?
I mean, he worked on the first Monkey Island, but I don't think they really touted that. He was responsible for the insult duels in that game.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, so this was a matter of them calling him back.
How appropriate. You fight like a cow.
But, and Card is not involved at this point. This should be noted. This is not Card's story. Card comes in basically as like a dialogue translator to get it from programmer to like Hollywood. and makes it probably all worse. So
Yes, I agree.
This game is very violent. There is a lot of blood and gore. They were really leaning into the whole this is an adult game, right? A game
There's
for
some
grown-ups.
cool screenshots floating around of that earlier version. There's a character who there's a shower of acid that comes down from the sky and just dissolves his body bloodily.
Yeah,
Pretty
so
cool.
their version of a red shirt is like the old guy in Contact who's like floating around on the space station. It's like a wealthy financier. Another thing that I read said it was the son of a wealthy guy, so it's a fail son who went on this expedition with you.
Wow,
and he just gets completely dissolved in front of your face. Spielberg, I guess, had pitched another idea where there would be blood spattering on the camera lens, right? Like on your screen.
Oh, sure.
So they had a lot more puzzles at this point that were based on like scientific principles, where it's like, oh, we have to electrocute something that's in the water. It's not quite good enough, so we need to get salt into the water to make it more electrified. And they had this idea of an inventory of ideas. I've seen some games do this where you like maybe you'll talk to this blonde guy in one part of the room, and then you'll talk to a brunette guy, and then the blonde guy's face will show up, where it's like, hey, what about that blonde guy, right? So it shows up like it's an item or whatever. With the inventory of ideas, I guess it was more involved, where there would be a whole routine attached to it. It's like, oh, I need this object, but instead of picking up this object and carrying it around, you find the place where you need it and you're like, aha, this object. And then it sort of plays a sequence of scenes where you go back, pick it up and come and then use it.
This sounds almost impossible to translate into workable gameplay.
Yeah,
that would
their
be
play
fun.
testers were always like, what the fuck do these images mean?
Yeah, what's happening? It's hieroglyphs, right?
And that's the other thing, right? Was like, because this version of the game had so much complexity, and the complexity was growing by the day.
Yeah.
The underlying programming to make it all work became more and more complicated and convoluted to the point where it just wasn't fucking working.
Yeah,
apparently.
they couldn't
the code itself.
They couldn't do it on Scum. They had to build a new engine called Story Droid. They were even building some of their CG things in Landru, which was the engine that they made for TIE Fighter and X-Wing. Funny enough, named after a computer in Star Trek, the original series. Great episode.
That's my nickname for the longest Andrew. Landru.
It is the will of the longest Andrew.
It's what I call Andrew Law.
So then they get to the pizza orgy. Do you guys know what the pizza orgy is?
You're going to have to explain the pizza orgy.
I mean, that
to
was
me.
just like...
I mean,
that-
I've attended one.
No, come on. This was just like their get together and let's play a vertical slice thing, right?
Yeah, video games, especially old video games, very much a boys club, kind of frat house feeling. Frat house full of nerds.
Hey, guess what kind of pizza was at the pizza orgy?
What kind of
Was
pizza?
it sausage?
It was a big sausage pizza.
So, yeah, the pizza orgy is you get pizza, you have everyone from the different departments, people who are working on Full Throttle or Day of the Tentacle or whatever. The different departments come in, people bring in friends and family. It's a whole like, we're going to show this to you. They refer to it as sort of an alpha plus build. It is a playable build of the game. It's sort of, and then it's like, it's your way of like workshopping. You spend all day together, you're eating a lot of pizza, you're playing this game, you have people who are not even game developers working on it, giving feedback on it. It's like the sweat box, which our listeners will understand in a little bit. It was like Disney, 90s Disney having its sweat box where it's like, okay, we have a film in storyboards and animatics from beginning to end. Let's all look at it. Let's all give feedback and let's see what works and what doesn't. And so they get to the pizza orgy stage, which is like the halfway point of development, typically. And Brian Moriarty isn't there.
Jesus.
This is before everyone has a cell phone. No one can get in touch with him. So Gary Brubaker, the lead programmer on this game, and back in these days at LucasArts, lead programmer is also like a writer, a puzzle designer. There wasn't really designers. They had programmers and artists. And so programmers were also designers. So Brubaker is like, okay, well, I'm going to be in charge of the day here and let everyone through everything. No one knows where Brian Moriarty is. And in a couple days, I think he gets like an email that's Brian Moriarty saying like, by the way, I'm no longer at LucasArts.
Jesus.
Unclear if he was poached, if he was fired. What happened? What matters is that he was gone.
Sure.
And he went to work for Rocket Science Games. Rocket Science Games had this big game coming out called Lodestar. The Legend of Tully Bodine, a classic to this day.
Yeah, I have never even
I've
heard
never
of this
heard
game.
of this game.
It's got Ned Beatty in a role. It's
What?
It's trying to be an interactive movie where it's like half of it is non-interactive FMV sequences, and then the other half of it is a rail shooter.
Oh, this was developed originally for the Sega CD?
Yes. So it was like,
Fuck.
because Sega CD, they were able to like dust off Night Trap and put that out. It was like that same kind of thing. So Lodestar gets put out, and the most notable thing about Lodestar, The Legend of Tully Bodine, besides the fact that it is basically the end of Brian Moriarty's career as a game designer, he does other things now, but it has a very interesting credit for what I think it lists as ground crew, meaning it's programmers. It's got a lot of names. A lot of people worked as programmers on this game. One of them was
Oh no.
young white South African Canadian named Elon Musk.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Brian, I have to commend your digging because you have dug deeper
Yeah.
than and you have hit a racist. You've dug so deep, you've just hit a racist.
Then we get a couple other people in charge. Now that Brian Moriarty is gone, they very briefly put Hal Barwood in charge. Hal Barwood was working at LucasArts. He was a former filmmaker and a personal friend of Steven Spielberg, but he was mostly just there for like, I don't know, a day. And then they get Dave Grossman
More
to be
like
in charge.
Grossman.
It is Grossman.
It is.
More like Grossman.
Yes. And Dave Grossman is in charge for a while. He doesn't want to be. No one wants to have this fucking hot potato in their hands. So he leaves, and then they get the ultimate company man, Sean Clark, in to
Right.
do
Yes.
this. And his whole thing is like, there are big gaping holes in this, and our job is to sew this up because the only thing that matters is getting this game the fuck out. We are getting it
Right.
on the shelves so a little curly-headed 5-year-old boy can finally play it, and we can make money off of it.
My hair was straight then.
Really?
I've got a little quote here that I really love from Sean Clark in an interview that he did with International House of Mojo, where he says, "My plan when I came in on the final incarnation was to take a game that was in production and finish it. The general consensus was the game was in a first playable state and had about 6 months to go before being ready for launch. I had other game ideas I wanted to pursue, so was keen on keeping momentum and getting this one
I want
done.
to work on a different game.
Get this out of here.
As I brought myself up to speed on the project, I started to realize that trying to just complete the game in 6 months wouldn't have met the standard for a Lucas Scum game. It wasn't that there was anything inherently wrong, but it seemed that production had gotten ahead of some key decisions that needed to be made, which had put the project on the wrong trajectory. I didn't get a lot of pressure or specific objectives from management, and they were generally supportive of the choices I was making, which I appreciated. I think they were mainly interested in getting the project done so they could finally have a product plan that didn't have the Dig listed on it."
The websites and magazines at the time were like, this is fucking vaporware. This is a game that's never going to come out.
Like the Duke Nukem Forever of the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you mentioned Scum there. That's one of the first things he does. He moves it back over to Scum. And he's like, anything that we couldn't do on Scum, we're not doing.
Right.
We're not doing an ideas inventory anymore.
No, I mean, some of that remains, like some echoes of it.
Not only do they not have an ideas inventory, this is, to the best of my knowledge, the only LucasArts point-and-click adventure that doesn't have an action-based point-and-click system at all.
Yeah.
Where just you point, you click, that does the thing, like in Humongous.
I really like the simplicity of this game.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that kind of stands in the
streamlining of
way
it, yeah.
in the old version of Day of the Tentacle is it's like, oh my God, it's still drawing off of the old text adventure thing. Whereas this is like, this sort of thing just works. And yeah, he moves it over to Scum and he hires Orson Scott Card to come in and write dialogue. Like just give the whole thing a pass and refurbish it, give characters backstories, which, oh boy, he does.
Oh, yeah.
The
sure
weirdest
does.
backstories I've ever imagined.
Genuinely.
And they also hire some actors to deliver some excellent actors to deliver some of the worst voice acting I think I've ever heard in a video game.
Yeah. It's, I mean, clearly they were not given enough time because, again, these are very talented people. Robert Patrick comes in, the T-1000 himself, to play. I'm just checking my notes here. Commander Boston Lowe?
Yes.
All right, cool. That's the name we're sticking with. And then Mary Weiss, who was a Steppenwolf actor and like has had a very consistent career on TV as just like a guest star role for her entire career. She plays the love interest / foil, Maggie Robbins.
Yep.
Their chemistry is electric, as you'll hear later. And then Steve Bloom himself, who is also doing voice work for Full Throttle at this time. And he's going to play the antagonist. And we know he's the antagonist because he's German. They try and cover that up for a while, but it's like, I mean, come on. He's also not really doing, his German accent is strange. I think I can put that out there. It is not very consistent.
Yeah.
It sounds a little more Dutch to me.
Well, I was thinking he was Dutch because his name is Brink. And it made me think of like Hans Brinker, you know?
But also to the point of Full Throttle, right? When you roll credits on this game, you see pretty much all of the old LucasArts names, including Ron Gilbert, even though he, at this point, had been out of LucasArts for a few years and working at Humongous. But one name that is nowhere to be found in the credits is Tim Schafer. I just think that's really notable because I think he went straight from Day of the Tentacle onto Full Throttle, and Full Throttle actually shipped the same year as the Dig.
Yeah, 95 was a good year for LucasArts. Like, it didn't really matter if the Dig was a failure or not, other than, I guess, just the feeling of working on the game, because in February, they released Star Wars Dark Forces, the first-person game. Full Throttle came out in April of that year. In October, they released the sequel to X-Wing, which was Star Wars TIE Fighter. And then right there in November, the Dig.
And one more quote that I just wanted to read here that I think really sums up the nature of development hell for this specific game is from Bill Eakin, who is a programmer who worked on it. What often happens is people sit around thinking about it, and the idea that looked really cool yesterday starts to look old-fashioned today, and you start meddling with it. But at some point, you know an idea is good, and you live with it and move on to the next problem to solve. You may wake up in the middle of the night with a better idea, and if there's time, you may go enhance it, but usually there isn't a lot of time, and you smile sheepishly, lament a lost opportunity for perfection, and move on. It comes with the creative life. That is not what happened on the Dig.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because every time they had a better idea, they're like, well, we're going to put that one in now.
Because they couldn't,
it just kept happening for 6 years.
They couldn't move on. And like I said, it came out in November. That's when AJ's birthday was. And they had to get it out in time for the holidays. Other than that, yeah, I think weirdly the pressure felt high, maybe because the work environment was high. But there was also just like, yeah, we'll work on this 20 years if need be. It's Steve Spielberg's game. We'll just get it out when we get it out. So just a weird thing. And I think this results in a lot of the weirdness of this game because I have
very, very odd game.
I have not played many games where I can feel the cuts. And here I can be like, oh, there used to be something here now. And they just moved on.
There was a hole here. Like, I dug it. It's gone now.
Let's talk about the way the game opens because I think this is probably the most solid part of the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
really thrilling opening.
This was in the game going all the way back at least to Brian Moriarty's version of the thing.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that this thing feels solid.
It really feels like a 90s action movie, right?
Yeah.
Specifically Armageddon, which would come out after this.
Sure. Yeah. I was getting a lot of contact from this most of the time.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
it
absolutely.
has that
Especially with the
Zemeckis
music
feel.
and the vibes. Like, it's got that feel to it. And we
a little bit of Close Encounters, too, for that matter.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, true.
We open on a deep space observatory in Borneo. We get some classic We're Back style animation here, too, which is, again, I mean, who could forget We're Back?
Yeah, the 2D animation in this game, really bad.
Yeah.
I just need to put that out there.
Like, there's a charm to it. There's
charming.
such a charm
they want
to
it.
it.
They want it. I love the way that characters look when they're walking around or using the shovel. Those animations look really good. There's an issue where you can't move more than 3/4 of the pixels on a sprite in this engine at this time.
Sure.
Because otherwise it drops below 12 frames a second.
Okay.
So they have to move only part of the sprite. And so that's why you get some of the weirdness where some things are still and some things are moving. And then they have these more detailed animations that are FMVs that look. You say we're back, AJ. I say Quest for Camelot.
Oh, sure. I think Quest for Camelot is a little more advanced than this. We get this first clip of the impending doom that is coming towards Earth, this asteroid, and we hear the southern voice of Steve Bloom.
Of course I miss you, darling. This is the loneliest place on Earth. Most exciting thing ever happens here is a day when it don't rain.
Meanwhile, there's just a red dot beeping on his
Excuse
screen.
me, darling, I got some work to do. What the heck is that? Get on in here, Pete. We got us a big old asteroid on a 3-week collision course with Earth.
And you get like this huge orchestral swell, and you see the title card of the dig. And this asteroid that's hurtling towards Earth is called Attila. And we see a press conference of this team that is being set up to go and fight it. And we get our 3 major characters who we'll be interacting with for the majority of the game, and also 2 other people for some reason who are also on the team who don't get to go on the adventure.
They sure don't. Hope you enjoy their like 3 lines.
They're fun and charming. There's a lot of cool character stuff happening there. It's just we never really see them again. Our protagonist is Commander Boston Lowe. Sorry, just checking my notes. That is in fact his name.
Boston Lowe.
Boston Lowe.
It just every time I hear it, I just think of Boston Logan Airport.
Cincinnati High, a practical blue-collar military man. This feels like a Robert Heinlein story, right? Like it's this idea of these archetypes, these manly men who are going into space.
That's the thing is these guys, aside from Lowe, these guys aren't really astronauts.
No.
They are. We have chosen America's best and brightest from other disciplines. All these people have had like 5 jobs.
We wanted the best and the brightest for this mission. Dr. Brink and Ms. Robbins are not narrow specialists. They are resourceful, widely educated, and creative thinkers.
Does that apply to you too, Commander Lowe?
My job is to keep everybody alive.
So you're not.
I don't have to be brilliant. I just have to be careful.
Okay.
And now we've got Maggie Robbins, who we mentioned earlier. She's a reporter.
Maggie, you're famous for having once said that you never put up with censorship in any form.
Okay.
Now you're under NASA command.
Miss Robbins is a reporter by vocation, but on this mission she's...
I think I can answer the question myself, Commander Lowe. Danny, I trained for this mission, and I have work to do in laying the nuclear charges. When I come home, I'll be a reporter and tell you all about it. But during the mission, I'm part of the team, and I will obey Commander Lowe like any good soldier.
That may be the biggest news story of all. Maggie Robbins obeys orders.
The 90s.
That's a very Adventures in Odyssey style line, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. But it was also, this was the culture at the time, right? It's like, I don't need a man to speak for me. And then it's just like, wow, another one of the guys,
This is very mediocre screenplay dialogue. This is something you would see in a Hollywood movie at this time. Yes, she is a reporter. We also find out later she's like a linguist.
Yeah, she can immediately pick up any language.
Why isn't she just a linguist?
We don't really know what her beat is either. Like, it's unclear what she reports on.
No,
Josh, she is journalist.
But she's like a star reporter. She's like a
journalist.
reporter that everyone has heard. She's like Nellie Bly or something.
And then we finally are rounding out our main trio. We have Professor Ludger Brink, our evil German scientist, and he sounds like this.
Come on, Brink.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. God, guys, I'm so sorry. I seem to have mixed up my clips of the dig with my extensive catalog of clips from the Disney Channel original movie Brink from 1998.
You did not mix
I'm so
those
sorry
up.
about that. I labeled them
clip.
Come On Brink. They're both Come On Brink.
I like when he throws the shake on that guy's head.
I loved the moment in the game where Lowe actually says, "Come on, Brink." He says the line.
He does say the thing. But I'm sorry. Let's try that again. Brink actually sounds like this.
We have to be accurate. The idea isn't to blow Attila to bits. If we did, some of the pieces would certainly hit Earth with devastating effect.
The direction of these voices is so bad.
I mean, direction implies that there is one.
There
I'm not
is.
convinced
They had
that
a
these were
director.
directed at
So
all.
the voice director on this was a guy named Dara O'Farrell. I know this because the hint book, which of course is like first party, has like a list of credits at the end as well. And I'm trying to see. I think this might have been his first thing.
You can tell.
Yeah, the way video
what I'll
games
say.
work now, of course, it's like animation. If you have an actor contracted, they're coming in a lot, right? Like you're doing a
Right,
lot
yeah.
of retakes. They're there for all the different phases of development. That's not the case here. So here it was a 3-week period where they did all the dialogue.
Yeah, and what I will say is that I think Robert Patrick acquits himself the best because
I don't agree.
it's very consistent, and I don't know. It feels the most like an adventure game delivery a lot of the time.
Sure.
Like he does have he's able to do like work in the jokiness in
Yeah.
a way that like feels very LucasArts to me. And I just think if Stephen Bloom had a little bit more time with the accent, he would have been much better because
He's
he already
a very
has that
successful voice actor these days. You know,
it feels rushed.
Yeah.
And poor Mary Weiss, who is just given the worst lines of dialogue I think I've ever seen in a project of this scale.
It's really bad.
Yeah, I think actually the best performance comes from Leilani Jones.
Yeah.
Who you can only talk to on the phone, but yeah, I think she actually does a really good job with a character who also has way too much backstory. She's a politician actively running for Congress, and she's
Yes, who is on this
and
mission.
she's
yeah.
in the cockpit. She and another guy
Right.
Ken
who
Borden
is funny. That's his job. He does. I don't think
his
he
job
has a
is to
job.
be funny.
Everybody else is like, because Brink is a scientist, but it also turns out he's an archaeologist. In addition to being this astronaut, Lowe was
Yes.
in the military, and apparently, according to Orson Scott Card's extended dossier and all this, Leilani Jones's character, whatever her character is, the Congresswoman,
Cora Miles.
Cora Miles, she served in the military with Boston Lowe. I think they fought in Vietnam.
I don't
or
know
some shit.
why,
Like, why is
we're
all this
spending
happening?
so much time on this backstory because none of this matters.
this
no,
matters.
because they're gone.
Why it matters is that once you get you're after this press conference thing, the game starts. You're
Right.
coming out of the shuttle. You've got your jetpack. You've got
You're in
Cora,
space.
and you're not Cora. You've got Maggie, and you've got Brink right there with you. He's throwing a milkshake on your head, and it immediately everything is kind of open to you, and you see that your interactions are just click on something or go to your inventory, click on an item, and click on something. You can talk to people. There's this sort of dialogue branch that you get down. None of this is too complicated. You also have a PDA. So if you're not on screen with anyone, you can call them with your PDA.
You can also play a little like landing game. Did any of y'all mess around with the rocket ship landing game?
Yeah, you can
It's
play
impossible.
the lunar lander game, a variation on it that's harder than usual.
Yes,
because it
Yes.
rotates. But yeah,
Fascinating.
you can call these characters up, and they have this little like animated face that you'll only see on the phone here, and you can talk to them about stuff. And it's at this point that you start to realize you have this toolbox called the pig, and it's like, oh, that's Cora's.
Sorry, the what?
It's the pig.
God, thank you.
And that's Cora's thing. So you're like, oh, I'll call up Cora and ask her about the pig, and she'll tell me what I need to do about this. So you call up Cora.
Coram. Her name is Coram.
No, it's Cora Miles.
It's Corem Miles.
Oh,
it's
no,
it's
Coram
not.
Miles.
It's spelled Cora Miles on IMDb.
Yeah, no, in the book it's Coram Miles.
That's insane.
Well, fuck me. Okay, so you call up Coram.
Coram Miles.
That's just, I think that's just like a Mormon name. This is
Coramators.
my daughter Coram.
where we dig into the depths of Coram.
So you call up Coram, and you have the option to ask a question or say something profound. This game does not hold tight to this. Sometimes saying something
No!
profound
No.
is asking a question. You don't know
Most
what
of
the
the
question's
time.
going to be. And you can also ask about different characters. So you're like, okay, this guy is not doing what I want him to do. How about I talk to another character about him? And then all that conversation will just be like, wow, it's crazy that we have an archaeologist here. Or you talk to the archaeologist and it's like, so what do you think of our reporter? It's like, we know she's a reporter. So they never give you hints. The dialogue
Right.
never gives you hints.
Yeah.
Right.
And I found out
Infuriating.
why. Because the whole reason this PDF exists was so they could give you hints.
In the PDA?
Did I say PDF?
You did.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that it was a portable document format.
So the reason the penultimate PDA T1000 model or T2000 model or whatever that they called it, because we got Robert Patrick. That whole idea was so you can get hints from the other people on your crew because they have different kinds of expertise. That's the Brian Moriarty vision. However, LucasArts prints guides to its own games.
Right.
These guides cost money that then LucasArts gets to make from you buying them. So this answers the question of why were puzzles so shitty back then and never based on basic deduction and never had a clue system built into the game, is because they wanted you to buy the guides. And it was a company directive that you cannot have hints that walk you all the way through the puzzle because we need to sell the book.
Right.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
I never knew that, but it makes so much sense now. It's like the first time that I learned about Marxism. It's like now I have a lens through which to explore the world better.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Brian, allow me to
George Lucas, man.
present some folksy wisdom that might help you through this trying time.
Boss, be careful. If the handle breaks, maximum down thrust will smash you right into Attila. You know the saying, whether the stone hits the glass or the glass hits the stone, it ain't gonna hurt the stone.
That has been in my head for 30 years. For literally 30 years.
That's a classic
that fucking
saying.
line.
That is a
it's a classic
saying that everyone knows.
It's so George W. Bush. It's so, fool me twice. I can't, you're not going to fool me again.
You're not going to hurt that stone. I'll tell you
the
what.
The gist of this puzzle, right,
Yeah.
is that you've got the asteroid and you need to figure out a way to detonate pieces off of it so that you can dig in.
And you use two digging tools, right?
The main point, too, is that you're taking the asteroid out of its disaster trajectory into a stable orbit with Earth.
Right.
And so you use some nukes to blast it open to do that. So you have this toolbox.
It's the pig.
Where you get a regular shovel, you get this drilly shovel, you get your nukes. It sort of zooms out and you can float around the whole asteroid to place them. All this works for the most part, other than the fact that a couple times the solution to the so-called puzzle here is you have to call someone and initiate the next narrative moment. Thankfully, this doesn't happen too much in the game. But
no.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a roadblock at this beginning part. But yeah, you detonate them nukes and then you go inside the asteroid and it turns out there's a whole bunch of inscriptions there and little metal plates that you can push. And you go into the center of the asteroid and oh my God, it's a giant dodecahedron inside. And you solve a very basic puzzle where you fit all the metal plates together and it turns the entire asteroid into a starship, which is, I think the design of this is really cool. It's like a giant dodecahedron
you're flying around inside a transparent D20, right? That's kind of the
and that's it, right? It's the D&D spaceship, but it also reflects any light that's coming in, so it looks like it's kind of camouflaged, which is really fun. And it transports the three characters that you'll by Corum, by Ken, we'll never see you again.
You'll never see those characters again. They were cut so that the game could ship.
You can try to call them again. There's no like wind up. Like you'd think that at the very end it would be like, hey, I can reach you again. Let's get back to Earth. No, the moment you get off the planet at the end, it's just credits roll. But that was it for them. That was their whole performance.
Yep. And so you land on this alien planet that's completely covered in ocean, except for one giant landmass in the center, surrounded by 5 spires. All around it. In the game, it is not named, but in the novelization, this planet is called Casitas, after the frozen lake in the Ninth Circle of Dante's.
To get into the hype level that they have for the Dig, they got Alan Dean Foster, Mr. Novelization himself, to write the novelization of the Dig. He's the guy who famously wrote the Star Wars novelization that came out before Star Wars came out, and the alternate Empire Strikes Back novelization. They did an audiobook version of this that has the music from the game in it to make it a little bit more dramatic. And they sold a CD soundtrack of the Dig alongside the hint book and the game and everything else that AJ bought. Did you buy the soundtrack, AJ?
I did, yes. It was so good. Like the music in this is so fucking good. Like
you were 5.
It's so funny to me. I know. I was like, I love physical media.
Little seat, you're holding it in two of your tiny little hands. You're like taking it to kindergarten for show and tell. Like
people were very. I kept talking about life crystals, and they're like, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, I know we're in California, but like Jesus.
The music, I should note, composed by Michael Land, longtime LucasArts composer, and also the inventor of the iMuse system, which is a component of Scum, the game engine, that allows for music to sort of fade in and out dynamically depending on what you're doing and where you are. And he's sort of doing this like sort of classical music thing in a Wagnerian sense.
It's also the Spielbergness of it all, because like Spielberg always works with John Williams, who is basically just Wagner 2 in terms of his beliefs as well.
Oh no!
Come on!
John!
Come on!
You land into the canyon of Casitas, right? It's this giant clearing, and everyone's like, should we take off our helmets? And they argue about this forever until one of them is just like, well, the air is at least as breathable as the air in LA.
That is such a 90s joke.
There's so many 90s ass jokes in this. There's so much like all of these characters too. Maggie is like, well, that just happened. The character. Like that's her whole thing every single time. She
doesn't show fear in points where she should absolutely be losing her shit. She's like, well, I found myself here, I guess.
She feels whatever emotion the authors want her to feel.
You're talking about like when her life is getting menaced by a gigantic, scary spider creature, for instance.
And she's like, well, tied up again.
I've been on worse dates than this.
But also, okay, so Ludger Brink is standing on this alien planet, right? This is our archaeologist, our like smart German scientist man.
Yes.
Right? And
those are his two different
line,
jobs. Yes, those are two very different things that he does canonically.
He's got hobbies. Here's what he says. Alien microbes should be no threat to us.
Oh, okay.
Well, he establishes why, which does kind of make sense, which is that alien microbes have not evolved alongside human beings or mammals or anything like that, so they're not going to be able to infect us in any way. That's not unsound.
They take off their spacesuits and they wander around for a bit, getting the lay of the land, right? You encounter an alien spacecraft and you do your adventure game due diligence and grab the dangling wire. When you pull the wire, you release a ghost from the remains of the ship, and it drops an engraved rod on the ground behind it.
That's right.
There is also a treasure chest in here that is very easy to miss, and by that I mean I missed it on this playthrough, where there is a compass inside of it that if you use it, you can find a bracelet that you'll definitely need for later.
Yeah, you can always come back up to the surface, but you will forget about it later on once you get inside the actual dig. I missed one thing from the surface, which was a fang.
Yes, you do need the
fang
jawbone.
is no. I got the jawbone.
Oh no. It's the
They're
other thing.
both in the same place. There are these graves that you can dig, or not fang, tusk. You're right, it's a tusk. But it looks just like all the other ones that are next to it, so you don't know it's a clickable item unless you just happen to hover over it. So that was the one thing I missed from the surface where I needed it quite a bit later. This is one of those things where you grab an item and you're not going to need it for 6 hours, and the item is not even particularly, sometimes like that item is meaningful. And so you're like, oh, at some point I'm going to have to use this. And it's like, but like the bracelet thing is the biggest like bummer of all.
Yeah, that is the biggest question mark. So we actually get to the dig itself, the titular dig. And don't worry, because Commander Lowe sees like a little tiny like hole in the ground. And he's like, I've got a plan.
I'm going to see if I can enlarge the hole.
Yeah, that's the prayer of Jabez.
Oh, that you would enlarge my hole.
Kermit, when he sees Miss Piggy, be like,
It's the pig. I'm going to see if I can enlarge the hole.
No.
So Brink takes over enlarging the hole because he is an archaeologist, right? This is one of his jobs.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the professional here. I go in the hole first, and he immediately dies.
No, it's completely.
I can't.
No.
Come on, Brink.
Yeah.
So Brink is dead, and looking at this, Mackie obviously emotionally devastated.
No,
and
no
distraught.
one cares. None of these
Beside
people
herself.
like each other, and they're very unprofessional on this mission, right? No, like they're all
Incredibly.
just busting each other's chops the whole time. They don't trust each other.
But it's also that like Lo and Maggie are supposed to have like this romantic chemistry for any of this to work. And I would just like to play you almost in its entirety this scene between the two of them. And let's see if you can hear the sparks fly.
I don't like the idea of splitting up.
Why? Because we're safer together? Ask Brink about that.
Because maybe I won't know what I'm seeing without you to help me understand it.
If you find something interesting, the communicators still work. Till then, adios, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen.
Maggie, it's against every rule of military action for an officer to be separated from his command.
So that's where the scene should have ended, right?
Boston, this isn't a military action,
And yet,
and you don't have a command. There's just you and me, and we both know exactly the same amount about this situation, which is to say, nada, nothing, zip. If we suddenly find ourselves
She knows
facing an army,
languages, you see.
then you're in command again. Until then, adios, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen.
Nobody likes you when you smart off like that.
it's still going.
Yeah, all my psychological tests as a kid said that I didn't work well with others.
So this is what failure feels like.
The music going. Yeah,
Like,
all my
again-
psychological tests. It's like, what the fuck, Orson? What's going
what
on?
is happening here? It is, I mean, again, so the languages thing, they're like, well, she's good at languages, so she has to say
Zip.
words in every language that exists that she knows, all 4 of them. It's so repetitive. And I've cut out most of the pauses that are between these because
Yeah.
the SCUM
Right.
system requires a certain amount of time for the next line of dialogue to load. So it just starts feeling interminable.
All of the dialogue in the game sounds like this.
Yes.
All of it. And there are times where it's actually kind of funny in an unintentional way.
Yeah.
And there are times where it's just actively infuriating to have to
Yeah.
deal with.
You know,
Yes.
We mentioned before this is like one of the serious LucasArts games. It's actually written with a pretty light tone throughout.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't ever get like deep into the well, but that makes it worse, honestly. Because they're trying to be like clever and quippy, and those quips do not rise to the occasion.
And the thing is, too, like when you look at LucasArts games overall, the writing is fantastic, comedically speaking.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it really acquits itself so very poorly relative to its competition in its own studio.
Right. I think for any other video game, this dialogue, it would be considered pretty good. But because it's coming out of LucasArts, it is put into that sort of, because you're seeing the sprites and the way the sprites animate in the LucasArts style,
Yeah.
and you're expecting comedy to come out, and it doesn't really rise that. But we have now arrived on the planet. We are in the Nexus. This is our main hub for the rest of the game, and we're going to get into the adventure game stuff proper now, and we'll cover those puzzles right after the break. Greetings, people of Earth. Dr. Ludger Brink here, archaeologist slash astronaut slash mechanic slash cunning linguist slash former inline skating superstar. I have many hobbies. Listeners, has this ever happened to you? You are trying to catch some mad air at your local ramp park? Yes? When, oh no, the half-pipe is already occupied by local hooligans, one of whom's dad may have recently fallen off a beam at his super blue-collar construction job and has forced his families into an unforeseen poverty, a poverty which may tear them apart forever? Then you need Team XBlades with a Z instead of an ES because its distinct level of cool cannot be contained by normal grammatical structures. Team XBlades is the only teen inline skating team that specializes in bullying other teen inline skating teams out of inline skating. Team XBlades has everything you are looking for in a skating team. Selling out. So join Team XBlades today so that you too can show those losers that soul skaters do not, in fact, ride that perfect wave, but are, in fact, just a bunch of nobodies who would not know a lemon drop from dropping dead. Listeners, can I be honest with you? I used to be part of Team XBlades. During my brief time as a teenager in Southern California, I grinded down the handrails of my school and did sick flips in empty pools like the fattest skater in existence until this ignoramus, this Andy Brinker, came to town all the way from the inline skating haven that is Utah. I recruited him to the XBlades with the siren song of capitalism, but we skated together, me with my long wavy brunette hair and him with his dreamy eyes you could get lost in forever, and something started happening inside my body. He told me we could run away together, that we could skate and skate and skate until no one could find us, build a half-pipe so high that not even God could reach us. But God did reach us. Andy Brinker got sick. They said his skating was too gnarly for this world. And as I held his hand on his deathbed, a local minister asked me if I would take his name, and I said yes, I would, yes, and I held him close as his skater soul finally left his skater body forever. I cried into his frosted tips, I will be yours forever, Brink. Of course I will, yes, Brink, I will. Yes. So join the XBlades today and tell all those stinky poo-poo garbage soul skaters to eat worms, like that one time they made me eat worms. Oh, so embarrassing, Ludger. XBlades, expect the unexpected. So we're back, and who's ready for some puzzles?
Me. That's why you play an adventure game, right? Is for the puzzles.
It sure is. And this first one, oh boy, probably one of the most infuriating.
I'm not even lying. I found this puzzle to be one of the most straightforward.
The drone?
Yeah.
Oh, I just find the drone's controls to be very finicky. So to set this up, right?
Yes.
You go underneath the Nexus because there's no power going to any of the doors that you can get through, right? And you have the combination to one of the doors because there's a rod lying on the ground and you can see that it has the shapes.
Yeah, you
but
don't
none of
know
the
which
doors
door,
work.
so you do this with every single door where you're just slowly clicking through everything. No door opens.
Yes.
This is fun.
Yes.
This is, yeah, I'm told at gunpoint, this is fun. And you go down into the lower part of the Nexus and you see that the power source isn't completely going towards the battery. So there just isn't enough power in order to activate the doors. And so what you have to do is utilize a drone to fly down, pick up a magnifying glass that is what the lens is, I guess, and pick it up using the drone and then direct it towards where the energy is shooting off in a different direction to point it towards the main battery.
You have to pre-program a movement sequence. You use this panel with unmarked buttons that are directional vaguely. They're big blobby buttons. One is sort of on the leftish, one is sort of on the rightish, one is sort of upish, one is sort of downish. One means delete once, and one means clear the whole thing. And then you go to a second panel to initiate the sequence that you have just programmed.
You are also forgetting about the action button.
Yes. Oh, there's an action button. Also, the directions are colors. So you have like your sequence on the side of the screen. Like I said, programmers design the puzzles. Yep. So this is a programmer puzzle. So you're supposed to get a certain sequence of colors going. This is a point where I was like, I am not even going to try. I'm just looking this fucker up because are you kidding me? There's not like a grid. There's not like anything that's supposed to sort of guide you into understanding where each piece is. And if you manage to pick up the thing and drop it, it drops in a different spot. So you have to program a different routine. So I just wasn't going to fuck with that.
Yeah.
My experience with this puzzle is that I had no difficulty with figuring out pretty promptly that the buttons were directional. And that the objective was to, move that little drone over to the thing that was out of a line or the missing lens and pick it up. Yeah. All of that I figured out pretty intuitively. The thing that I actually had difficulty with in this puzzle, and this goes to an issue that I have with this game more broadly, was how the latter part of the solution was signposted. Because once you have figured out how to pick up the thing, it's incredibly unclear, or at least it was to me, what you're supposed to do with it. Because,
were you thinking you had to bring it back up to yourself?
Yes, I was.
Person?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that you have to end up looking really closely and like clicking around on the thing, and eventually you'll see that like two of the points of the fucking power thing or whatever are normative, But then the third one, when you look at the little subtitle, it's off, and the little subtitle says it's not working. But you can't really tell just visually what's going on. It's not clear at all.
This is a puzzle that I remember the solution to, but I remember as a kid just fiddling around with this for what felt like weeks, basically, in order to get this thing to fly exactly where you need it to go. And you're right, Josh, like this game has a horrible time of signposting any of its puzzles. And this continues on into the next section where you go to the museum spire. Each one of the spires on the outside of the main canyon has its own thing going on, and this is the museum portion of it. You get there by riding around in a little gerbil ball.
I was going to say a pinball, but that's also not wrong.
A little tram, and the tracks of the tram look like a giant tongue.
A lot of these elements of the world design feel very, very Cyan inspired.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. This is Riven.
Myst, 5 linking books that go to 5 different ages. Riven, 5 different islands that can be accessed, right? It's interesting to see these ideas that Cyan would execute really, really well, but have them be done kind of poorly.
It's the transition in between each one is also true in the Cyan ones. It's just maddening because you have to do it every single time you travel in between, particularly if you get stuck and you have to do some backtracking until...
At least here you can skip it. With Riven, when you were going between worlds, you had to put in a wholly different disc.
A new
you had
CD,
to switch whole ass CDs.
That's
but
true.
You get to the museum spire, and there's 3 basic things happening when you get off. There's a door you can't get through because it says you need another person to get through it.
Well, does it say you need another person? It says that he can't get it open, and the shovel won't work in this instance.
And he says, I can't get this open by myself, is what he says.
Okay.
And you go outside into like the beach area, and there's a little fossil on the ground.
That you'll forget about. You'll forget about it.
Yeah, you may well not see that fossil. It pretty hard to
in
spot.
with the ground.
Yeah, and it's a weird
spot.
screen. Like the interaction on that screen is just sort of odd. And it's like, this was a late addition to the game. And then you can go down to the water. You see this little turtle thing get eaten by a Loch Ness monster.
Yes.
And then nothing else happens, so you leave.
Yeah, and you walk up to the top and you activate the light bridge, which is sort of the first major big puzzle that will be going throughout the game.
This is another annoying thing. With this light bridge, I don't even think you're supposed to make any adjustments to it. You're just supposed to hold the button. Nothing indicates that you're supposed to hold the button, but you're supposed to hold the button.
And it connects a light bridge from the museum spire to the center of the map where there is a translucent, glowy dodecahedron thing happening and floating above.
High above basically where you landed at the beginning.
But then you enter into the museum proper and you get a lot of lore, but it's not told to you.
Right.
You watch these pictures mold into the cave wall.
Sort of like Echoes of the Eye.
Yeah.
In Outer Wilds, which we covered in Lads Cast a long time ago. But vaguer. It really gives you a new appreciation for just how good the... Because every story element in Outer Wilds tends to have like a practical element too. Like once you learn this, then you know how to do something. This game, infuriatingly, has no practical dialogue almost ever. There's almost never a point where you talk to somebody and then you're like, aha, this has given me clarity on something that I need to do.
Oops, all flavor text.
You're actually not intended to be able to figure it all out just from the game itself.
However, a couple of these screens, when you watch them, Boston Low figures out what they mean before you do, presumably.
Yeah.
Like, because I watched one that's like about building a burial ground. I didn't really understand any of what it was saying. And he's like, this looks like a grave.
Right. Which I think is because in playtesting, people had no idea what the fuck this shit meant, which also really makes you appreciate not just how well a game like Outer Wilds and especially Echoes of the Eye did this. It also makes you appreciate how fucking difficult this is to do well, because you need to balance a certain amount of mystery and puzzle and not giving it all away right away while still making it something that can be comprehended once you have the right amount of information. And balancing between too much information and too little information in most LucasArts games is done through dialogue. But this is not a dialogue heavy game. Well, it actually is, but like not in the ways that it should be.
The world that you're interacting with is, it's largely like visual, what you're dealing with.
And one of the visual things, the clues that you get from this museum, it shows like a skeleton of like a griffin creature, which is you later learn is one of the Cocytons, one of the aliens of this world.
Yeah, they're birds.
And there's a crystal that is cracked over it, and it turns from a skelly bird into a regular bird again. And so, and I think Lowe even comments like, oh, looks like it was brought back to life using this crystal.
And then another thing that you get to see is an object that explodes. Looks like it's used to like build a mine or something or other. And then he uses a specific term for it, which when you find it in your inventory, it has that name, but you wouldn't have thought like canister or something
I think
like
it
that.
is canister when you get it in your inventory.
Wow, that canister looks like it really explodes or whatever.
You find Maggie in the next room who has just discovered a giant computer and is just downloading the language into her brain and is way too busy to help you.
This is where the lore is the most interesting because she's like, actually, people here spoke a lot of different languages.
Yeah.
And this thing is written in a kind of universal pictorial language. It's supposed to be interpretable by all the different people who used to come here. And so it's actually kind of easy to decipher. I'm still working on it. I don't know how to speak it. Remember that she says multiple times, I don't know how to speak it because she's just looking. You also have a golden plate with mysterious symbols on it. Mormon, and you hand this golden plate to her and you're like, can you decipher this? And again, she explicitly says, this looks like a different language than what I'm working on.
Because you can't solve that puzzle yet.
She says, wow, this is incredible and it's so heavy. I don't understand how you got this all the way through upstate New York while not over encumbering your horse or getting apprehended by bandits.
My headcanon is that the Cocyton that you do eventually meet, the creator who does not give you his name, is named Joseph Smith. So it's like, okay, so I don't have Maggie to help me open this door. I need to get somebody, and I did just get a crystal that can bring people back to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty certain from the moment that Brink died, basically, that I was going to bring him back to life because his body is lying there and you can't do anything with it.
Right.
I was like, at least take something out of his pockets, you know? So like, he's going to be alive again. So you get these little crystals that look like eggs.
You crack one over him, it absorbs into his body, and he comes back to life. And he wakes up and he seems totally fine and normal, you guys.
Brink, are you okay?
I feel fine. What happened? I remember digging, and the ground gave way under me.
Brink, you've been dead for several hours.
You Americans, always exaggerating.
I assure you, Brink, no pulse, no breath, dead. But I found a couple of life crystals in a museum, and from a display there, I got an idea of how to use them.
Where's the crystal? I have to see it.
I wasn't sure it would work on a human being.
Our cellular structures must be very similar.
What's happening in this dialogue?
Austin, it didn't
I have
just
no
bring
idea.
Let me see it anyway. I didn't know it would work on a human.
To life. I feel more powerful, more energetic, more alive than I've ever felt before.
Yeah, so obviously it's a monkey's paw. You found a monkey's paw on the alien planet. So Brink is back, but he's wrong. There's something weird going on.
Yeah,
with
and
him.
when you open the door that you need another person to...
Yeah, he's like strong now.
That you need another
right?
person's help. Yeah,
Right,
he's
so
super
you
strong.
bring him back to that door you couldn't open, and he's able to get it open for you.
And it turns out that, wouldn't you know it, the room is full of the crystals, and this, of course, causes Brink to immediately go feral. He needs those crystals, man. He needs them.
A ghost comes in and turns into a skull over it. And
A human skull, not a Cocyton skull.
No, a human skull. And Brink's like, oh yeah, these are clearly life crystals. And then Lowe's like, I don't know, man, that's a fucking skull.
That looks like a human skull.
You both take a bunch of crystals. So you walk off with that. Brink disappears. He's got his own plan.
So you go to the beach because you now have the canister in tow.
Yeah.
And I
yeah,
guess
the
you're just
canister
supposed
is
to-
also in that room. The exploding canister from the display.
And while you're distracted by the Loch Ness Monster, Brink decides he's going to run off.
Brink? Brink? Where are you? Brink, answer me.
And the camera zooms out.
Brink, can you hear me? Where are you?
That's so good.
So you are once again alone.
Yes.
Commander Lowe. And you must tackle the most infamous puzzle from this game,
Yeah,
I think.
This was the thing that showed up in the listicle that I read a long time ago.
This is the turtle bomb. The Loch Ness Monster coughs up what is referred to as loose bones.
Yeah, it eats another turtle, and then this time it does something different. It coughs up the bones of this turtle onto the ground.
You then have to reconstruct this turtle's bones to be its original skeleton and then use the life crystal on it so that you can attach the canister to the turtle so the Loch Ness Monster will eat the turtle and the canister and then explode.
Yes.
Thus allowing you to enter the cove that, which by the way, you don't know that it's a cove at this point in the game that you're above.
Yeah, you don't know that you're going to be swimming at all in this game.
But yeah, that's what you got to do, because by going in that cove, you're going to get the next Rodney, which is going to the engraved Rodney, which is going to unlock the next door.
So this is what I wrote for this section. This part's really working for me.
Really?
This is the part of the game that flows. You get the stone, you bring Brink back, you do your little like backtracking, find those places that didn't work. Everything was kind of working for me. I looked at the bones, I tried to put the bones together, and I was like, well, fuck, this is really weird. It's a 6-legged turtle that has these kind of extra carapace bits like a bug has. And so it's like, which part is the head? Which part is the tail? There's also this like pelvis going on. And I was like, well, shit. Oh, there's a fossil on the next screen. And I went over and the fossil is there. And the fossil is, of course, made of turtle bones. So I look at that. I'm like, okay, I'll go back over and I'll assemble the turtle bones. You also get a little hint in terms of the shadows and the highlights that are on the bones as to which direction they should be facing. And so I put it together just fine. And they also established that the canister explodes on contact with water. And so it was like, again, some of this is that I read an article that mentioned it a long time ago. I knew there was an exploding turtle. At the same time, I feel like all of the elements that were needed for the puzzle were there. For me, it like, I can't say entirely if I would have known had I not read some article 10 years ago about an exploding turtle, but I felt like everything just sort of lined up for me.
I think the big issue with this puzzle is actually to do with the signposting, because I missed the fossil. And if you miss the fossil, it becomes very, very difficult to know what you're supposed to do. I also think that whenever you have any puzzle, any big puzzle, and this is one of the big puzzles in the game, right?
Yes.
I think it needs to be clear what the super objective is. The super objective here is to destroy the sea monster so that you can swim. But for me, I actually didn't really understand. Obviously, you have to get the sea monster to go away somehow. Well, actually, that's not necessarily obvious either. To me, it wasn't even clear that this was a guy that needed to be defeated. That was not clear to me in the text.
Yeah, you don't know what is in your way unless you hover the mouse around. And there's not too much like pixel hunting in this game. Usually the hot zones are pretty big. There's a little bit. But like there is a thing that says water and you can't go into the water because there's a monster there. So it's like, okay, I guess it has that clickable because it's going to want me to go in the water.
Sure.
But yeah, there's no like, I need to get to that point. It's super important. And once you do explode the sea creature, you go in and he's like, finally, I can get to that cave.
And they're like, what? Cave?
Again, cuts were made and you can feel the cut. At some point, this cave was something that he saw and needed to see. And then they got rid of whatever that necessity was.
But then presumably that piece of signposting would have been the thing that would have given me the connective tissue to understand what the super objective in this puzzle is.
I need to go in the water.
I may be hallucinating this, but I do think that if you go into the command center early and look out the window, you are able to see the Loch Ness Monster guarding a cave.
I guess I
may
didn't
be
interpret
hallucinating
that. I don't think so. I
don't
went
think
there.
that's
I
true.
did go there early and looked
Okay.
out the windows, and he mentions things that he's looking at. I just couldn't connect those really to anything that followed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it had been in the museum proper.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like, instead of showing it blowing up a mine, it actually showed it blowing up a Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, or showed a cave that you need to reach because it
Yeah,
has something in it.
Brian, I agree with you. This is the section of the game that works strongest for me.
Everything just moves really fast here. It just If you're on the wavelength.
Yes. And I think it's also that this puzzle gave me so much trouble when I was a child that it has lodged itself in my brain. So I remembered actually how to like organize everything. And I see the logic behind it in terms of what they're trying to make you do, which is xenoarchaeology, right? This is the thing archaeologists have to do all the time. They have to put bones back together, right? They just don't have the opportunity to like bring it back to life.
This is also one of the times where the game does live up to its title. I think that it is the puzzle where like you can see, this is the closest that you get to seeing the game that this could have been. If there had been consistent focus and they hadn't had to cut a whole bunch of stuff to ship, you know, there would have been more puzzles like this that involved a lot of moving parts where you had to bring things together and then also complete a task along with doing inventory stuff, which is that's just good adventure game stuff. The problem for me is that interacting with this system every step of the way was really frustrating, including trying to do the thing with the skeleton, because if you fail to assemble the skeleton correctly, once it disintegrates, all of the bones return to being completely scattered all over the place. I much would have preferred to see them be where you had left them the last time so that you could, try again where you left off.
So it is more about trial and error because you were able to see what error you made.
Exactly.
And then fix it from there.
Should be worth noting here in the dig. Again, this is the LucasArts kind of taking over from the old Sierra design philosophy. I don't think there are any timed puzzles in this one where you have to do this and then quickly do that. There kind of is with the critter trap, which is coming up here.
And jumping into the wave.
Oh, I guess that was time too. I just did it right the first time.
Of.
But that's timing based on one single action rather than set this up, do this, and then immediately do that. There's also no death. There's no Sierra fucking there's no soft locks or death.
Everything that happens to these characters happens to them.
Yeah.
Is what the manual says. And I really appreciate that design philosophy because it does allow you to fuck up and sort of live in this world and just sort of like ride on the synthy vibes of the soundtrack. But you make your way to the planetarium spire next using that rod that you got from the cave that you totally knew was there. And once you get there, you can visit Brink if you want. He's building a relic on the other side, but he's just like, leave me the fuck alone.
This is setting up a bit of plot that doesn't follow through, which is that bringing Brink back with the crystal actually has possessed him with some other life form that knows what it's doing and is forcing him to build this structure. This does not carry through to the end. They decide on a different outcome, but you can just see this like weird remnant of
that idea.
Brink. Yeah.
And so instead of doing that, you want to open another door, but you can't because a little rat creature has stolen mechanism that is required in order to do it. So you have to catch a rat. And this is my least favorite.
I was going to say,
puzzle.
I think this is the worst puzzle in the game.
Bullshit.
I guess if I gave if I had given the drone puzzle the good college try, I'd hate it more. But like this puzzle sucks ass. There's also, like we said before, you get this orb and it points you to a spot that lets you find a bracelet. No one can wear the bracelet. It's like too small or something. But you're like, oh, this bracelet had this orb point to it, so it must be very important. It must do something.
Yeah.
And no, you find out that the whole point of the bracelet is just that the orb points to it. That's what you use it for here. You make these bizarre leaps in logic. You have an item that is too heavy to pick up, but you can kind of move it around. You have these rods that are everywhere. You just picked up a blue rod in the lower cave on this spire that doesn't do anything here. But then there's also just the rod,
This is
which is also not the engraved rod, which is itself different from the multicolored engraved rods, which give you the solutions to the doors. Too many rods.
There's 5 Rodneys, I want to say, engraved Rodneys?
At least.
And then there's the engraved Rodney that it does not have a color that does a different thing. And then there is the rod and the blue rod. So that is 8 Rodneys?
8 Rodneys?
That's that is a full Bones of Wrath.
I hate any adventure game puzzle that requires you to do precise movement.
Yes, because the games are not designed for precision.
And it's also about like making this rat go to a specific place.
Right.
And it's very unclear how you can influence this rat's behavior. You just have to fuck her. Even like looking at the guides, I was like, what am I supposed to do?
Because eventually the idea here, right, again, with this rat is that you are supposed to trap the rat in this makeshift trap that you build using this big hook that's too big to carry around in your inventory.
The rod, which you might not see, which I didn't see both
didn't see it
times
either.
it was dropped, because you have to
Okay.
pick it up afterwards too, and I lost it then too.
So none of us saw the Rodney. Okay, so because also the color of this stuff looks very similar to the surrounding area. Anyway, there's also a peg. You have to hook the peg into the big hook. You need to attach that hook to a rib cage, and the rib cage gets propped up by the Rodney so that when the little rat guy comes around, you chase him into the trap, he knocks the Rodney out, and then the rib cage falls on him. If explaining a puzzle from one of these games sounds confusing when you say it out loud, it's probably not a good puzzle. You know what I mean?
It's worse when you're actually experiencing it. You also can pick up this rib cage afterwards, and I don't think you actually use it again. Whatever.
No, you can just have it. Sentimental value.
Then what you're supposed to do with this rat, because you see the rat coming out the holes. Every time you look in a hole, it'll pop out, although not always. And then there's also a big thing that you can dig where you can see the inside of this rat's nest. So you're like, oh, well, I'll just find it here. No, you can't find it there. Fuck you. What you're supposed to do is put the bracelet on the rat, and then you release the rat
from the trap.
Yeah, from the trap. Use the orb to find where the bracelet has ended up, and then from there you will find whatever it is you're looking for.
And what's weird to me is that you don't bait the trap with any sort of shiny object. The rat just kind of goes into it of its own accord. You have to force it in
herd
there.
It, yeah.
But like it would have been so much more fun to like set the trap and then go hide and then have the rat come out and trigger it, right? I think that's actually a puzzle from Day of the Tentacle.
It's also kind of what you did with the turtle, right? Because the turtle was also bait.
You get the mechanism in order to go inside the room, and it's a planetarium that you can't even really use yet. Like you can use it, but like it doesn't do anything yet. There's just another rod in there another rod.
There's two scepters, which is just another word for a rod.
This game is so penis forward. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The subtext.
Are they
of this
supposed
game
to put it behind? What do you do?
So divorced.
I know what you do. You tie it to your thigh. But
I kind of figured out what I needed to do in the planetarium prompto because...
Did you go to the tomb first?
Well, I didn't go to the tomb first, but I did go to the museum. And at the museum, there's one of the things, and then you hear Lo saying, it looks like the bigger moon is getting eclipsed by the smaller one. And then I saw in the tomb area, because I didn't go into the tomb itself, because there's... Just to jump forward a little bit, there's a little tomb that you can go into, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But basically, there is an archway that you can look through that frames up this moon, and you can move the moon around in the planetarium. And so I realized, I need to get that moon in that window, and I need to get it eclipsed because Lo said that's what I needed to do. I had no idea what the fuck it was for, though. And that's the thing, too, is that I think because I solved that before I solved the rest of the thing that you're supposed to solve there, it made figuring out what you were supposed to do with that a lot more difficult for me.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, because you had jumped ahead. You had gotten ahead of the game. And this game is very much about you will do this and then this and then this and then this in a very particular order.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, in order to get to the tomb at all, you have to solve a puzzle in the command center using the blue rod that you found, which is not one of the combination Rodneys. It is its own, Dr. Manhattan's penis.
So yes, there is this console that you'll get to, and you might get there right at the beginning of the game because it's like very, very easy to find. And on that console, there are 5 crystals, one of which is not glowing, and 3 little slots next to it. And eventually you'll find a long blue Rodney, which you can slot into one of those slots, and then 2 other Rodneys pop up.
Everything is rods and crystals. Everything.
What you kind of come to realize is, oh shit, if I want to be able to power this tram, which isn't working, one of the trams that I want to take, I need to get that crystal to light up. So how do I do that?
This was a eureka moment for me in this one, because if you slide it enough, the crystal will start glowing. And if you configure all 3 of the sliders to a certain point, it will pop up and glow. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
The problem, I think, is that there are no other puzzles in this game that are even remotely like this.
Yeah. There's nothing that's about like very specific placements like that. Yeah.
Or just like generally having to observe the state of things.
Yeah.
In this way.
It's also, it's very subtle, right? The increased glow is like really subtle until you get to the final point where it's just like, boom.
Like and it pops in. Yeah.
I think the most frustrating thing, core of the game is, right, you have the Nexus, you have that main room, you have those 5 doors. There's nothing in the game that, and the way that you figure out how to open those doors is by looking at your engraved Rodneys, which each of which has its own color. The color is not indicated by any of the doors.
No.
There is nothing that says this rod goes to this door. So you just have to try it. And unfortunately, these codes are really, really time consuming and annoying to try.
Right.
Where you're shifting different shapes and colors and things, and 2 of the shapes look very similar to each other.
Because the way that these codes work is that there is a sequence of 4 shapes next to each door. And of these shapes, each of them can be of, I want to say, 5 different geometric primitives, I think.
It's a pyramid, a cube, a sort of a rough spherical shape is what I would call it. It doesn't look like it has even faces, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the way it comes out. And then there's like there's like a dice shape, a D&D dice
shape. So that's 4 shapes, right?
Yeah.
And then each of those 4 shapes can be one of 3 different colors. So,
so you have to
red,
cycle
green,
through
or
them.
blue, and you only go in one direction. Each time you click on it, it moves to the next shape, eventually next color, shape, color, shape. And if you go one past, you got to go all the way back around. And it takes like a second each time.
And I think that when it comes to creating gates for players, you want to have the act of solving whatever the gate is, right? Putting the code in correctly or bypassing it or whatever. You want that to feel really good for the player. And it just kind of doesn't in this game.
No, I find the colors very pleasing, is what I will say. The red, the green, and the blue that they use here, like, activate something in my head, but that's the only
this is
nice
5-year-old
thing I can say
AJ
about
coming in. This is 5-year-old AJ being like, Father, I am so grateful that you got me the dig for my birthday. I find the colors in it quite pleasing.
But I don't know, just to compare to another puzzle game of the era, Myst, right? You know how fucking good it feels when you finally lock in any of the solutions that, get you into the linking book? There's nothing particularly exciting about having successfully inputted a series of shapes. You know what I mean? It's just, oh yeah, I sure put in the thing from the thing. If it's that, why would you not just have a key that you put into a slot? You know what I mean? There's no effective difference for the player.
Well, and on that, like what you're describing is 1, very simple, but 2, it just doesn't tell you which door it goes to. So that becomes, I guess, the friction of this puzzle.
But then it's just trial and error, and that's not fun.
It's genuinely just trial and error.
Stupid friction. It's just like, just tell me the fucking door it goes to, and then give me the puzzle.
My dad would often give like rewards for things, but they would like have very strange stipulations attached to them. So if I got a certificate of excellence in academics, they had like monthly like awards ceremonies for like K through 5
participation trophy ass liberal commie
formula
culture.
Like if you got a certain amount of like good grades or whatever, right? He said, "Listen, I will buy you the strategy guide to Myst, but you have to have the letters that spell Myst on your certificate that you get."
What?
And he knew they would be there.
Oh, sure.
Because our last name is Ditty,
right?
So the Y is guaranteed to be there.
And then ST and M, they're going to be there
and
too.
So what he would do, he's like, he said it was like setting off like a joy time bomb. Because I would watch you receive the award, like waddle back to your chair, sit down, desperately like looking through the letters and counting, and then I saw you go, yeah. When
he gave you a point-and-click adventure game in real life. It was a pre-programmed outcome, but you figured it out.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's what a good game puzzle does. It gives you everything to put it together. And yes, of course, there's nothing about the gameplay itself that's going to allow for any outcome other than the one that the developer designs. But the developer gives you all of the hints in such a way that it sets that reaction off in your brain. That's what you want to see.
And it has an actual logic to it where, like, again, Moriarty's version of the game was going to have scientific principles, which if you didn't know it, I guess that kind of sucks, but you would have gotten hints from the scientist / archaeologist / astronaut in the game. And people play tested it and they're like, it feels like going back to school. And I think this was a different feeling in the 90s. Cause like, remember when we played Alan Wake 2 and we were like, there's a math problem. This is awesome.
Algebra. Yeah.
Or like when I got to that part in Blueprints that involves the periodic table of the elements.
Table. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even need a hint in game. I'll just look up the periodic table and line that up. Like that's cool. Like it works off of like actual logic. It works off of something that exists in the world that is understandable and that is not just like, how do I figure out what this one boomer programmer thought I should figure out in his own brain.
Speaking of boomer brain puzzle, we have the tomb puzzle that we alluded to earlier, which is basically you have to move the moons in the sky, which is a thing you can do, to cause an eclipse to send a certain beam of light into a lens on top of a tomb that then activates a platform to rise from the crypt that you can then ride on.
You then also have to remove some dust from the lens outside the tomb first, which it doesn't signpost very well. Then you can go inside.
And you don't know where that is.
It's glowing, but only slightly.
And that's
very slightly.
It's another one of those things where it's like you're just adding friction for the sake of friction. This is not fun.
There's a tile you're supposed to step on that's not a clickable object, and then you're supposed to get that rod. You remember the rod from the trap that you forgot to pick up? That you have to use that to prop the stone down somehow?
And even though there are other objects in your inventory that maybe would be heavy enough, you've got to wait.
Yeah.
Like, there are other objects that have weight, but only the Rodney has the ability to keep this platform pressed down.
Oh, it's the Simpsons bit. We're holding a parade for the rod. It's on the cover of Time magazine. 15 Rodneys.
Yeah, but you get this statue that immediately turns to dust. I think it's your first real glimpse at what the Cocytons look like.
Despite, apart from the drawings on the wall,
right.
And because the drawings are abstract.
And then you get a Day of the Tentacle puzzle. This is my favorite puzzle in the game.
This one's fun.
Because you approach the crypt and there's a booby trap set in place that a little life crystal falls out of a slot and brings a guard dog back to life, which looks like a Star Wars beast.
It's a Rancor. It's a Rancor from Return of the Jedi. Yeah. It comes back to life, it attacks you, and you're like, fuck, what do I do about that? Well, there's another guard dog right next to it. I'll revive that one, and then they'll kill each other.
And they do immediately. The comedic timing on this is great. You throw the rock, he like gets up really bleary-eyed. He looks over at the other guard dog. The guard dog looks at him. They immediately attack each other, and 9 boulders fall on them, and they're fucking crushed. It is so funny. And of course, Lo kind of ruins it with well, that went well.
Yeah,
but like
over and over and over again. So that just happened, which is funny. I feel like that just happened is
it's a millennialism,
thing, but it happens all the fucking time.
You know who coined that phrase, right?
I do not.
David Mamet.
Really?
In his movie State in it might have existed already as a spoken word, but the first time it appears in writing in a script is in the movie State in Maine by David Mamet, which I think came out in 2000 or 2001.
The author of all of my tragedy. David Mamet.
But certainly the sentiment still stands, and you can try to use the gem on them again, and he'll like, I'm not doing that. And then you finally get to use the original engraved Rodney that you got from the surface that looks
from
like all the other engraved ones, except you can't do a close look and figure out a code on it. No, you just touch it to an object and open the pyramid.
That Rodney has 5 shapes on it, which you're never going to get to see, by the way.
No, it's also tilting in the other direction in the inventory screen. So it's different. So you open this pyramid, and there is some sort of venerable ancient being that is there dead.
Joseph Smith.
You know what to do. You crack open the thing. He starts talking to you. in what basically just sounds like Russian.
Yep.
And you can't really carry on a conversation. You don't speak Russian.
Then you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
So you give a call to your good buddy Maggie. Remember Maggie? She's here.
She's been putting away at that language.
And you give her a call, and something is afoot.
Boston, I think I got it. I've got the language. I can read this stuff now.
Can you speak it? Because I've got this.
But take this inscription here. I'm pretty sure it's talking about...
Maggie?
My mind must be playing tricks on me.
What were you saying about...
Oh, what are you? What do you want?
What's happening? What's going on?
Boston!
Maggie!
I want to be very clear. This is a giant spider monster that you can see, and her first reaction is, who are you? What are you doing? What do you want?
So funny, dude.
I'm like, to eat you, Maggie! It's a spider monster!
I mean, it's a stupid line, but like, if it were delivered in the way that it should be delivered, this moment still probably would more or less work.
Who are you? What do you want?
The sheer flatness of it that is just, it's so funny.
So she gets kidnapped by a spider. You have to find her in the spider's nest, which is in an area that you probably just didn't see before, which is annoying. And you have to team up with Brink.
He's back.
To take down the spider.
Yeah, there's a whole puzzle. We don't have to. It doesn't matter.
No.
You get Brink back.
You get Brink
by
back.
stealing his crystals.
You do this sort of like engineering thing. You tell him to go over there. You tell him to go over there. You find this water. You have to divert it through a grate. It's a huge grate. The water's able to wash that spider away. And the thing is, Mr. Brink, he can't stick his finger in that grate to stop the water. Much unlike his ancestor, Hans Brinker, who saved all of Holland.
That's right.
You do get Brink delivering some insults to the spider, though, and I think this is where Orson Scott Card just borrowed from Monkey Island.
Yeah, this is really, really important. So the way that Brink distracts the spider so that you can do all this other stuff is by doing this.
Come here, you phlegm, carapace, slime-faced, mucus-brained, furry-legged abductor of luminously intelligent but pulchritudinous earthwomen. Lo, you idiot! Why are you standing there?
I'm still trying to figure out what you said.
This is an AJ line?
Yes.
Not the second part. I'm trying to figure out what you said, that you would never write that. But having a German character whose English is sometimes a little broken, but whose verbiage is just very academic and he knows all the big words. This is not something you would do. This is something you have done multiple times as a writer.
I know. I think it's just this is the text. This lodged itself in my brain.
What's annoying is he never talks like this anywhere else in the story.
No,
right?
and that would make it him such a much more interesting character if he just went full Eugene Meltzner, right? Where he is just using every synonym when he could speak plainly.
If only Orson Scott Card were as good of a writer as Phil Lawler?
I guess.
Oh, boy. God, what the fuck even happens after this?
Brink gets his arm stuck in a fucking crevasse and you have to cut it off.
Brink runs away a second time.
Yeah, there's so much back and forth.
And it's not a crevasse, Josh. Crevasses are ice. It's
a crevice.
Because it's
a crevice. It's not a crevasse. A crevasse is...
I thought that's where you were around your neck.
That's a cravat.
But yeah, so after a lot of back and forth, Brink gets his hand stuck in a wall, and then you have to use a jawbone.
The jawbone! Remember the jawbone?
Remember the jawbone? And you do 127 hours on him, and it sounds like this.
You're going to saw off his hand with a jawbone?
The teeth are razor sharp.
What about anesthetic?
Do it, Commander!
Brace yourself, Brink.
They dig into the stock scream sounds for Brink quite a lot in this back half.
Yeah.
You cut off his hand. This is gruesome. This actually is like some remnant of the darker game.
Well, I think maybe more accurately, it has the potential to be gruesome, but it's handled in such a way where it just feels very silly.
It's so short, too. I think had we like really sat in the sawing a little bit more, it would have been nice. But apparently a lot of this is because Spielberg got a lot of flack.
People
for
say this.
Yeah. This is said in a couple of interviews. I don't know if it's 100% true.
I don't know if it's
Spielberg
himself, but basically Jurassic Park was a bit of an inflection point for the culture war. The same, people were picking on The Simpsons at this point in time, PG, and then it's also like terrifying, right? It's like a horror movie halfway through.
I was not allowed to watch Jurassic Park.
Me neither. I didn't see it until I was an adult. But it was, it's pretty violent. In the 80s, Spielberg movies were all violent like this, and I guess people just didn't care, right? It was just a changing moray in the 90s a little bit.
I mean, we were focusing on the family, right?
Yeah, this is what people are saying. At the very least, LucasArts was like, let's tone down the violence a little bit, especially. But I think it has more to do with the fact that this is like right after Night Trap and everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like this was the point where everyone was freaking out about violence in video games specifically. So they're like, okay, yeah, we'll get rid of it. What's really weird is once you cut off Brink's hand, his sprite appears out of that point like gray. Like he looks different as a sprite.
Yeah, he has a pallor to him. He almost looks like a zombie.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like the villain in Five Nights at Freddy's, the purple man.
Yes, he slouches. Like I was going to make this exact same point.
Oh
AJ.
shit! Cool. Yeah.
I have nothing against this because I like the idea of him turning into a darker, scarier villain. The thing is, at no point from the resurrection to the hand getting cut off to anything does his demeanor actually change. He is the same amount of asshole as he is at the very beginning of the game.
I do love that he like shoves a life crystal onto the stump and it heals it immediately. Like it
heals it, but it doesn't grow it back. He still has
doesn't
one
grow
hand.
it back.
Yeah.
No, it just heals it up. And the biggest problem with Brink is that as a villain, is that at no point does he rollerblade in the entire game.
Yes.
But also he isn't intimidating because he's just keeps trying to logic you to death.
Right.
Like I never felt threatened by him because he's just
and you were right not to, it turns out.
Yeah.
There's also the ongoing issue that it is stated in the text explicitly that Lo is a much more capable fighter. Like he's gotten the army training, right?
Yeah.
He has the ability to kick this guy's ass. I mean, there is a shortcut in this game. It's a little Easter egg. You can press Control G in this game at any time to make Lo flex his muscles.
Can you?
Yes.
What? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's
oh my god.
It's one of those little LucasArts Easter eggs they throw in. But also if you do it around Maggie, she'll comment on it.
Funny.
Oh, what does she say? I'm not interested in muscle man.
So the other weird thing about Brink now is because we do have these close-ups. I've mentioned the close-ups before. The close-ups become inconsistent for Brink. Sometimes when we see him, he hasn't gone pale. He looks exactly the same, like in the part with the rock a little bit later. But other times that we see him, he looks old. He hasn't turned gray skinned, but when they do the close-up, he has wrinkles all over his face and he has gray hair. But then it'll go back to him being blonde and normal while his sprite is still the whole time.
Oh my god, this really is like a zombie. This is a Frankenstein of a game, isn't it?
This is just like they're sewing up the holes just to get it ready for release for holidays.
There must have been a whole plot like that explains how he got that way and what happened, but it had to get cut, It's too bad at this point that like the information about how all of this happened, what got cut and why is probably just gone forever now. And admittedly, I don't think that even from reading the interviews with people who worked on this game, it doesn't sound like anybody was particularly excited to reminisce about their days working on the dig.
Some people have a lot of candor. I mean, the one who is Gary Brubaker. Like he actually seems like he enjoyed most of the time working on it, even though it was a mess.
I mean, some people thrive in that,
Especially if you're the kind of person who can just have like your little corner of the world and you just stay there.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're the kind of person who is seeing the bigger picture of things, it can become extremely frustrating, extremely quickly to be working on a rudderless ship, You know
what kind of person really thrives in mess and muck?
Who?
It's the pig.
There it is.
They really play up the whole pig thing for this thing that you will not see after the first 40 minutes.
What does pig stand for?
Did it stand for something?
It did. It did stand for something.
I thought it was just like the name they gave it, but
it's
like because the pig was a tool chest, but it also you could carry it onto the asteroid. It attached itself for some reason. Also, it could pilot itself, we find out later, and it has a big light on the front of it, and it goes down in the hole, and then it disappears
there must
forever.
have been something else that was going on with the pig. That like they wouldn't have established it that much were it not
it's
for...
the pig.
Thank you. Me when I see any of New York's finest.
It's the pig.
Yeah, this is where we get into the big backtracking section. There's a final spire that you can open up that doesn't do a whole lot, but
there's just a giant lab on what's called the Cathedral Spire, despite there not being any cathedral. It's just a giant machine.
A laboratory,
It's like the laboratory spire, but you can't figure out how to work it. In order to figure out how to work it, you have to go talk to the person that ran it, and this is, of course, the creator. Yep. Who was the dude in the pyramid that you met earlier.
So you go back there.
You have Maggie in tow.
You touch the gold Rodney to the pyramid once again. You throw another life crystal on him, and he tells you about the whole situation.
And remember, Maggie just learned a written language. All she was doing was reading. She can talk to this guy just fine.
That's right.
Oh, it's
Which is,
fine.
again, okay if they didn't explicitly point out that she was... Like, she really is like, I don't know how it would be spoken, but this is the written language that they wrote to unify all the other... Like... Cut the line!
But while you're talking to Joseph Smith, you ask him about the light bridges, and this is his response.
If you were surprised that the lights could be used as bridges, what did you create them for?
When all the bridges are complete, the eye will see.
When you say the eye will see, you aren't talking about our eyes, are you?
An eye that can see the 3 dimensions of time, as well as the 3 dimensions of space.
Oh, okay.
It will show you beauty beyond belief.
Okay.
But once you have seen Space-Time 6, will you ever see Space-Time 4 again? The eye may be open, but the mind hasn't the strength to see.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No. This is getting out of hand. As regarding space-times, now there are six of them.
Yeah, so his whole species got to see Space-Time 6. I guess that turned out not to be very good for them, but also it is also good for them.
They're trapped in there, right?
Yeah, they can't get out.
They came up with the immortality gems, and the immortality gems are just basically cocaine. They just get more addicted to them, and the more you get brought back from the dead, the more of, I don't know, you just can't...
The cocaine bear you become,
life gem me twice, you can't life gem me again. Yeah, so it's like, it wasn't good for them. No one gets possessed by anything. You can throw that idea out. It's just cocaine. It's just cocaine. They all just got too hopped up on goofballs.
And also, if the voice actor of Joseph Smith there sounds familiar, it's because that is James Garrett. Or some of you might know him, the voice of Avatar Roku in the original Avatar TV show. He just wants, basically Joseph Smith's whole thing in this game is that he wants to die. Like,
he wants to die, and he wants to make sure that you don't use any of their stuff. He doesn't even want you to go home, but you're going to go home anyway.
You have to go home. Yeah. And the way you do this is that you get the final piece to his machine in order to activate the final, to open the eye.
Yeah. Is that on the disappearing island?
Yeah, that is on the disappearing. No. That is the metal plate that then gets you to this point.
There's this disappearing island that is not important. It has one puzzle piece of many. There are 4 metal plates. You just have to find the last one on this disappearing island, and they make a big deal about it. There's a lot of dialogue around about how this island can phase in and out of existence. It's tiny, by the way. It's like very small.
It goes to different space times.
It's a living room. And they keep talking about it, which means it must have been important at some point, and then they cut it. But it's so weird. Like, you've encountered so many different things in this, and they just keep talking about this one island that you have already forgotten once you got out of it.
The whole thing of, like, there's a little puzzle here where you have to raise the invisible island that you don't know exists up until you bring it into existence, and then there's a ton of dialogue about how important it is.
Yeah. Because it's connected to the golden plate, which again, Maggie says is a different language than the one she was learning, and then she looks at it.
She can read it.
The solution to that puzzle is to go to that place where the island is and hand her the golden plate.
And then she just solves it.
That makes no fucking sense.
Yes,
it's
she's
a
like,
different language.
The way that they try to finesse it is that she's like, it turns out this is an instruction manual. So it was just more formal, I guess, than what she was like. This is so stupid.
You had to look that one up, right? You didn't figure that out. You had to look it up because...
No, you have to look it up.
I think I looked at it. I was looking up most things at this point because I was like, I'm already backtracking so much and having to walk through frame to get it to scroll to go to the next screen. Right. I just don't want to backtrack more than I need to.
You have to backtrack through the spider thing at one point.
At this point, yeah, I'm just jumping back and forth between a walkthrough and this.
It's almost like the creators of this were like, look, we've made a lot of plot holes in this.
Yeah.
But there's one in particular that I think I have a plan about.
I'm going to see if I can enlarge the hole.
That's what our podcast does.
Enlarging holes since 2020.
They're calling us the first and only podcast that you can substitute for poppers.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, it's so stupid because like Brink keeps like stealing all the life gems, even though there's a big basin full of them. And then
they're his cheesies.
You have,
they are his
cheesies.
Yeah.
And you have, well, they're your cheesies, and he keeps stealing them, like another Dutchman I know. And and so you have to bring the little gem thing to the lab. You put it in, and then it turns out you need 2 life crystals. So you have to go back to Brink to get the life crystals, and then you have to like double cross him.
Brink takes your life crystals away from you, and then he takes all the remaining life crystals out of the basin. So you have to go and fight Brink to get the life crystals back from him. And then this happens.
Brink, don't make me hurt you.
You won't hurt me when you're dead!
He picks up a big rock, and we get.
Well, he pushes Maggie first.
Oh yeah.
Here she goes. Picks up a big rock, but it's too big.
He just falls off the cliff.
Come on, Brink. We skate for fun. We're soul skaters. Personally, I think it's fat. Come on,
Brink!
This is such a stupid scene. He picks up this rock with both hands, and remember, there's only one.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah! And he is missing the hand in the scene. He's just gripped it very well with the side of his wrist, and he picks up this rock to crush your head, and simply just falls over all the way into the ocean.
He loses his balance? ?
All in this quest for Camelot ass animation.
And again, if this were any other LucasArts game, this would be a comedic death, right? But it's treated very seriously.
Very seriously.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, because it's goofy as fuck. Anyway, Brink's gone. He's gone forever. You run back to the cathedral spire. You activate the machine, but Maggie's the only one who can turn it on. And before she turns it on, she very ominously says this.
I'm not sentimental, Boston. I wasn't going to say goodbye. I just want you to promise me something.
After you saw me break every promise I made to Brink, you want me to make another one to you?
What happened with Brink couldn't be helped, Boston. I know you'll keep your word with me.
What's the promise?
If I die and you live, don't use any life crystals on me. Don't revive me. Do you understand?
Are you sure?
I saw what Brink became. I don't want that to happen to me. You wouldn't be saving Maggie Robbins. You'd be creating a monster with my memories, my face. Don't do it. Promise me.
I promise, Maggie.
The dialogue crackles and pops with incendiary wit.
God, the chemistry is electric.
Also, this is not what happens when the stone brings anyone back. Like, they're pretty much the same. You just talked to the creator who is brought back by this method.
And he was totally normal.
Totally normal.
Well, it doesn't even affect him anymore. If you go into his dialogue enough, if you like talk to him.
He talks about how he's been brought back so many times that like
that it doesn't affect him anymore.
He's basically just a simulation of himself. But like, this just doesn't, whatever. You can't really use the stone anyway. You have to go out of your way to use a stone. Because
did anybody do it?
The two are powering it. No, I watched
it
on YouTube though.
Yeah, Josh, do you know what happens?
No.
You get a bad ending.
You bring her back to life, and she's just like, no, and she throws herself off a cliff.
Oh, okay.
So and then there's one little change in the final scene. So she brought back the eye. You have to go to the glowing bridges things. You can also accidentally deactivate these glowing bridges at any time if you just click slightly wrong and move the lens, which I did like 5 times in this fucking thing. And you have to take it back to the center, but then there's another Rancor. And so you have to like deactivate the bridge, and then the Rancor will fall, reactivate the bridge, make your way across.
I thought that was kind of fun, just as like a little,
totally
like,
fine,
you know.
totally fine. You know what you need to do.
It's LucasArts. It felt like
it felt like a LucasArts puzzle. Yeah.
You make your way to the middle, and It's the Stargate from 2001: A Space Odyssey. You get to see Space-Time 6.
This is the goofiest. I clipped
So
this
dumb.
because
So funny.
it is so silly.
Please tell me you grabbed
listen
this
to
whole thing in its entirety.
Almost. I cut a little off
Hell
at the
yes.
end, but yeah, let's hear it
I
out.
guess this is the real test. Can a practical guy from Earth do what all the builders of this place failed to do? Can I go into Space-Time 6 and still find my way back to reality?
The answer is yes. The answer is immediately yes.
It's like, yes. Of course the answer is yes.
It's
He enters
beautiful.
the orb.
A guy could get lost here real easy.
My God, it's
No.
full of stars.
No, I'm not going any farther into this place. I'm
Oh,
staying
okay.
here.
It's not
where
that
I can
beautiful,
get back
folks.
out again.
It's really not.
You are as strong as we hoped, human.
Oh, thank
I can
God.
understand.
Everything's working out. We're resolving everything.
Space-Time 6. All living minds communicate perfectly.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
You stand at the doorway, human. You show us all the pathway back to life, to reality, to a place where we will someday die, yes, but we will have a life before we die.
Every past and future. I can see them all, but which one is real?
Go back now, human. Take me home.
Oh, okay.
He's not seeing any pasts or futures, by the way. He's just seeing all of the Cassitans coming back to life on the planet.
What this dialogue reminds me of is J.C. Denton in Deus Ex in the ending where he merges with Helios. But if that ending were fucking nonsensical shit.
But it literally is just like he enters the realm and then all the aliens appear and like, you did it, human. Thank you. Bring me back.
You have won the game.
Yeah, it's,
You
it's
have won
the
the game.
congratulations scene in Neon Genesis Evangelion without any of the dissonance.
I think a good game ending, right, which this is not,
No.
let's be very clear, is one that asks some questions of the person who's been playing it. And I think Deus Ex is a cool example of that because there's something about that process of merging that is creating your titular God from the machine, right? And is perhaps saving some of humanity and making it better. At least we're rid of Bob Page and his whole deal. But what does it mean for everybody else? Whereas here, this ending is just, you did it! Yay!
Yay!
You genuinely, and this is true, get everything back to normal.
Yes.
Maggie and Brink are brought
Well,
back
Brink is
from
still old.
different timelines.
Brink is still old.
And this is,
and that's
yeah, for whatever reason, Brink has,
But why is he old?
he has both hands, but he's old, but also he's fine.
Please play this clip because it is wild.
Yeah, so this is the good ending.
Maggie, Brink, you're alive again.
We were lost, but this being found us and led us back.
oh, nice.
I thought I'd lost you forever.
So you really didn't try to resurrect me with the crystals?
No, I promised you. And besides, what the crystals bring back from death, it wouldn't have been you.
I know, Boston. You kept your word. And yet, you did find a way to bring me back from death.
It wasn't me, but I'm glad you're here.
Oh my God.
And I'm free of the madness of the crystals, too.
Oh! Cool!
I am also here.
But I'm free. Everything that was bad is good
Why
now.
is he still
It's fine.
gray and old? No one knows.
No idea.
Yeah, I think I said at the beginning, I never really made it very far past the asteroid originally when I played this game.
Yeah.
So to finally finish this game and get to this cutscene, I don't think I stopped laughing for the entire
It's so good.
thing.
Well, it's
so
also
funny.
unclear because at first the Cassitan makes it sound like he's grabbing Brink and Maggie from another timeline, but then they're like, "Oh, hey, remember when I died 5 minutes ago in this timeline? I'm alive
so sorry
now."
I died.
Yeah,
I'm in heaven now.
But also, like, the Space-Time 6 is basically like the pre-existence from Saturday's Warrior, right? Like they're just they were just hanging out in the clouds for a little bit. None of it makes. They're like, we need it to end. We need it to end. We need
It
to
has
stop.
to ship. It has to ship. And
Who are these Maggies coming down?
Yeah, genuinely. And everyone at once just goes, hooray for Boston. And then Boston.
one more thing, because there is a bad ending. If you brought Maggie back and she jumped off the cliff, this scene normally has this close-up of her and they hug. They don't kiss, but they hug.
Mm-hmm.
She smiles.
And she has this close-up smile. It shows that same close-up, but then she frowns and then she
That's so
slaps
funny.
him and she's like, why did you bring me back? And
that
he's
rules.
like, I wanted to, and it doesn't matter.
And then he was like, hey, but you're still back after all. And she's like, I guess that's true. And then the rest of the ending is exactly the same.
I love that. That's awesome.
Choice in video games.
I love it when choices matter. I love it. Love it. Love
So
it.
Lo shakes the talon of the new Kassitan leader, who is not Joseph Smith, but is Brigham Young.
There we
and,
go. There we go.
You are put into a giant, like, translucent starship, and that's the end of the game.
It just credits immediately roll. You don't get to see Earth again. You don't get to get back
Nothing
in
to see
contact
here.
with
Nothing
the
to see
shuttle
here.
crew. The credits roll. They show the LucasArts logo. The spider destroys it, and then the game closes out entirely.
Yeah.
It doesn't go back to the menu. It's just like program ended.
Like this would be in the old DOS days. This would just be like right back to the command prompt again.
Yeah.
C:\\/ what do you want to do next?
It is such a go home, we're done
Yes.
here. Like, the game is shipped. What more do you want from us? And that is the experience of playing the Dig in a nutshell. I would say immaculate vibes, immaculate fucking music, and
Immaculate
some of the
dialogue.
artwork. Yeah, fuck off. And genuinely, like, some very beautiful illustration
Yes.
and like work that's going on in this game, but it just feels like at every corner they were like, we had so many ideas, we couldn't finish any of them. What if we just threw them all like potpourri into one game?
And what's interesting is how shallow it all feels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of just having a lot of things that you don't come back to, it always comes back to the thing, but by papering it over. And so at the end of this, it's just like a very basic ass story.
It's shallow both mechanically and thematically, right?
Yes.
There's a couple puzzles that are clearly like designed from end to end, but are still missing a couple pieces. And so even those puzzles don't quite cohere in the way that a better realized game like Full Throttle or Day of the Tentacle does. But also, they're none of the ideas that they wanted to explore get paid off in any meaningful way.
No.
And I gotta say, like, again, having read that whole interview with Sean Clark, I am in awe of what it must have taken to get this fucking thing out the door. I mean, you think about all of the shit that is still in here. Just think about how many like dangling threads and brilliant ideas he had to just fucking kill because it's like we're not going to be able to do it.
And apparently a lot of the artists felt the worst about this game.
I believe
because
it.
they just had entire CGI sequences that are like, nope, this just gone. We can't use it. Like it doesn't. We don't have a story that accommodates it anymore. We're fucking moving on. And so that's why I want to say this is really important for you, AJ. This is like you insisted on this, and I remember hearing, oh yeah, this is a big ambitious failure. I was like, let's do this episode, and it was so much less than I expected it to be. But for you, it's this indelible part of yourself because you played it when you were 5. Just like we were talking about with all these point and click games, there's something about them that sticks in your head, and maybe some of it is the smashing your head against the wall characteristic. It's the fact that you have to think about everything. Everything that's placed in there is something you have to think about, right? It's going to be part of some interface. But it's like I was thinking about Out of Order, which I played in probably like 2003 or something. I played a lot of games in 2003. You played a lot of games when you were 5.
Yeah.
And a lot of games that I like, like, I don't know, an old Legend of Zelda game, they don't stick with me in the same way that like Out of Order sticks with me. There is something specific about the fact that like, oh yeah, in Out of Order, there is a store called Bob's Piles. And a guy's like, why is it called that? Oh, I sell batteries. Piles is French for batteries. And he's like, well, why don't you call it Bob's Batteries? It's like, well, the sign guy's charged by the letter. So I went with the French word instead. Like, why do I remember that?
That's a clever joke. That's a very LucasArts type joke.
Yeah.
That's good on them for that.
Out of Order is a really good game. Why is it that for you, AJ, that the Dig is the thing, is your thing?
Is my game, and in a way that even like Day of the Tentacle isn't. In
a
way that
better
like,
game,
a much better game,
By
a game
every
that I remember
conceivable metric, a better game.
Yes, and actually, I remember even as a kid liking Day of the Tentacle more than the Dig. But I know more of the Dig. The Dig is more in my bones than Day of the Tentacle, and I think the truth of it is, at the end of the day, it's because I played it with my dad. I mean, not to get too sentimental and weepy about it, but like, it's like that was such a formative part of my childhood, and so much of what I understand about storytelling came from him and from sitting down and playing these games with him. And it's why a huge part of why I love playing video games to this day. And he really liked playing this game. And I don't know, he didn't play a lot of these, games outside of playing it with me. And so he didn't have, I think, a barometer for like how this compared with any other LucasArts game. And neither did I, because, we were both coming at this like lambs, basically. And
being led to the slaughter.
Being led to the slaughter. But but there is something that, like, if you don't have any context for adventure games and you are playing this for the first time, it is a beautiful world. It is a beautiful score. And there was voice acting in a in a computer game.
Yeah, and I didn't play PC games much at all growing up. I, had some handheld consoles until the 2000s, then I got a GameCube. So I almost never encountered voice acting in video games growing up. So this would have blown my brain out the back of my head in 1995.
Yeah. And I think it's so funny because there is no legacy to this, right? There's never going to be a The Dig movie. There's never going to be a The Dig TV show. There is no
Orson
The
Scott
Dig
Card
anything.
was supposed to apparently work on like a graphic novel tie-in, and that just didn't happen.
And people really wanted like a movie of this. Like the people who love this game would like, this should be a movie. And I'm like, but what's the movie?
Well, I think a piece of it too, at least for me, is that the world itself is so interesting, or at least it points in the direction of something interesting.
Yeah.
It certainly none of the promises are paid off, but just this idea of here's this world that these people are brought to because the world needs something from them,
Yeah.
And what is our obligation and responsibility as humans to communicate? Like, these are classic sci-fi type questions.
This is this starts out as Inner Light from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yeah. Right? It's like this beacon from a dead world has reached out. We never understand why this meteor
or
is
Star
there.
Trek For the Journey Home, for that matter, or
That's
original Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
But like Inner Light, of course, you inhabit this other society, you become part of it, and then it becomes part of you. And it's like all this thing about narratives and storytelling. And at the Mountains of Madness, how they're like looking at these hieroglyphs of this ancient species, one of which has killed a bunch of them. And then they realize, this is also kind of Lovecraft trying to shake off all the weird racism of his life, being like, as scary as all this seems to me, these are all human. These are true, complex, interesting things. And then he gets into this little thing about degeneracy at the end. But like, it's an inherently interesting idea. And it's so frustrating that it came out this way, but we do know enough, and these old guys speak with enough candor about the stuff that they worked on that it's like, you understand why this turned out this way. It wasn't because there were idiots working on this, except for Orson Scott Card. And I can't say, I've never read one of his books. I know people like him a lot, but this doesn't.
No, the
endear
dude's
me
a
to
moron.
him.
I mean, you can write okay and still be a moron. He's fucking stupid. We know this.
Yeah, and he doesn't write okay here either.
He's not good at dialogue. That's not his strong suit. That has never been his strong suit.
But like, I'm glad to have solved this mystery, just like the people at that dig. I'm glad to have. This was this thing that to name another LucasArts game, looms over everything else in a weird way. Like, it doesn't have that kind of history. People don't talk about it that much. But when you get into the in-depth conversation about LucasArts, people talk about this a lot more than they talk about Star Wars Dark Forces. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
There is something so worth talking about with the dig, and something worth excavating in the same way. And it's so interesting that we do have so much of this history to find out, why did this go so wrong?
Well, look, if you, dear listener, would like to excavate some additional episodes of The Worst of All Possible Worlds based on what you've heard today in this conversation, we have a whole lot more stuff just like this in our back catalog, much of which is available exclusively at our Patreon, patreon.com/worstofall. $5 a month gets you access to our whole back catalog of premium episodes, plus Fancy Movie Time with Brian and AJ, where they talk about fancy movies every month. I think Day of the Tentacle was a premium episode. Yes.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah. So we've done the LucasArts thing before, and I think we'll do it again. I enjoy these conversations about adventure games because it's one of those genres where I think it's safe to say that by and large, the industry has moved past the genre because a lot of these gameplay mechanics have just been obviated by better gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
But there are still some things about these games that are just so interesting and tell a story in a way that no other kind of game does. So if you've enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more talk about adventure games or have any recommendations for stuff that you'd like to hear, let us know in the comments. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
So, Brian, you asked earlier why these adventure games stick with you for so long. And that was a question that I had in my head going back and revisiting the Dig, a game that I can now acknowledge is not very good, nor is it particularly deep.
Did that surprise you?
Yes and no, I think, because I didn't really remember the ending, and the things that I think stuck with me the most are the things that I still think are great. I love the texture of this game. I actually wrote a note saying that, like, this is like all I need a video game to look like. Like, this to me is like peak video game graphics. And I know that sounds wild because it was, dinged for being dated even when it came out. But there's something so beautiful about the pixel art.
I agree.
And even the CGI is silly and fun in its own way. Like the spider monster activates sort of that nostalgia for me as well. And I understand that I'm looking through it for rose-colored glasses, but Brian, it unlocked for me in something you just said like literally less than 5 minutes ago. But the reason adventure games stay with you is because you inhabit their worlds, and eventually those worlds inhabit you. I am the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. See you next week.